Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio ding ding ding. As the loud bell signaling the end of class reverberated across the campus, the noise of a great number of students suddenly erupted. Wei Wen, wake up. Stop sleeping, class is over. Luo Feng patted his deskmate, Wei Wen, who was seated beside him. It's over already. Wei Wen opened his sleepy eyes and couldn't help but smile. Let's go then. After transmigrating into the swallowed star, he had become Luo Feng's best friend, Wei Wen. It wasn't that Wei Wen didn't want to strive for greatness, but after over a decade of relentless effort, he had come to terms with his mediocre talent. Left with no other choice, he had decided to just coast by. Fortunately, he had Luo Feng, a veritable powerhouse in the making. Wei Wen figured that, as long as he maintained a good relationship with Luo Feng, he could live out his life in peace. Congratulations to the host for lying low for 6 years and successfully awakening the lie flat system. 6 years. Wei Wen clenched his fists and took a deep breath. 3 years in junior high, 3 years in high school. If he had known that lying flat was the trigger for awakening the system, he would have given up trying long ago. Why bother struggling for over 10 years just to prove his own inadequacy? But with his poor cultivation talent, Wei Wen had already accepted his fate. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been left behind like this. Now that he had awakened the lie flat system, however, his eyes lit up with anticipation. Who knew how to lie flat better than he did? Lie flat system currently available. Friends. 1 reward rules. After binding a friend, each time the bound friend's strength increases, you will receive various rewards even while lying flat. Awesome. Incredibly awesome. This setup was straightforward and brutally efficient. Compared to his previous plan of just clinging to Luo Feng's coattails and waiting to die, this offered a much simpler and more direct path to slacking. System. Bind Luo Feng immediately. You have chosen to bind your friend Luo Feng. Strength feedback will commence shortly. Luo Feng, my future success rests entirely on you. Wei Wen looked at Luo Feng with hopeful eyes. Cultivation, not a chance in this lifetime. After all, he had spent 12 grueling years confirming just how little talent he possessed. Now, by leveraging Luo Feng's progress, he could steadily grow stronger himself. He was on the verge of taking off. In the days that followed, Wei Wen received constant notifications of various feedback rewards. Your friend Luo Feng is studying diligently. Your knowledge is steadily improving. Your friend Luo Feng earned 100 yuan from tutoring. You have received 200 yuan. Note: repeated, non-giftable transactions do not count. Your friend Luo Feng is practicing his movement technique. Your comprehension of movement techniques is steadily improving. Your friend Luo Feng is practicing swordsmanship. Your comprehension of swordsmanship is steadily improving. Your friend Luo Feng is tempering his physical strength. Your physical strength is steadily improving. Though the rewards were modest, like a light drizzle, Wei Wen felt deeply satisfied. After all, the feeling of receiving rewards while lying flat was fundamentally different from the grueling effort he had once exerted. A few days passed in the blink of an eye. Before he knew it, Wei Wen's strength had gradually improved, and his understanding of movement techniques and swordsmanship had also increased significantly. June 6th marked the first day of the college entrance exams. As scheduled, Wei Wen and Luo Feng, students of 3rd high school, were to take their exams at 1st high school. Wei Wen's goal in taking the exam was simple. He wanted to see just how much the system would reward him through feedback once Luo Feng's strength improved after his awakening. Luo Feng, about the exam. Wei Wen gave Luo Feng a strange look. Although he knew Luo Feng might encounter some troubles, those very troubles would ultimately be a boon for him. In the end, Wei Wen decided not to elaborate. You should worry about yourself. I haven't seen you put in any effort these past few years, Luo Feng said with a sigh. I'll do my best. After a moment of silence, Wei Wen didn't say more. It was true that he hadn't worked hard in recent years. Even with the temporary feedback from Luo Feng's studies, he'd probably only score well enough for a 2nd-tier college. Catch a tilde while Wei Wen and Luo Feng were talking. The gates of 1st high school slowly opened. Attention, all candidates. You may now enter the examination grounds and begin preparations, a loud voice immediately announced. Yeah. Wei Wen glanced at Luo Feng, who was standing beside him. Luo Feng, let's go in and take the exam. Wei Wen and Luo Feng followed the crowd, and after being checked by the invigilators, finally entered their respective examination rooms. When the exam began, the test papers were distributed. After just a quick scan of the paper in front of him, Wei Wen felt a headache coming on. There were many questions he simply couldn't answer, but he wasn't too worried. After all, his goal this time wasn't to achieve a high score. Because he had bound Luo Feng, even if he completely slacked off in the future, as long as Luo Feng grew stronger, he would continue to receive various rewards. He had to admit, the lie-flat system was truly fantastic. The exam time flew by, and 2 days passed in a flash. It was now the final exam, the one Wei Wen had been anticipating the most. During this exam, Luo Feng would begin to awaken as a spiritual master, and Wei Wen would receive his corresponding reward. This mathematics test was exceptionally difficult. Every candidate was frowning, including Luo Feng. His mindset began to shift subtly. This could be troublesome, Luo Feng thought, feeling the difficulty of the questions and furrowing his brow. But look on the bright side. Actually, the harder it is for me, the better. For true academic masters, easier questions made it harder to widen the gap against weaker students, which slightly benefited the latter. The more difficult the questions, the easier it was to create distance, which was obviously more advantageous for top students. Time passed quickly. Luo Feng began to think and answer questions at a rapid pace. After about an hour, he finally finished the multiple choice and fill-in-the-blank sections, a testament to just how challenging this exam was. Stumped by the difficulty of the first major problem, Luo Feng began to calculate, think, and work through it on scratch paper. The mental stimulation from the exam's difficulty caused Luo Feng's brain activity to skyrocket. Moreover, as a latent spiritual master, Luo Feng underwent an initial awakening approximately every 6 years. By now, it was time for his third awakening. The awakening of a spiritual master was a painful process. The pulse data on the watch worn on Luo Feng's left wrist began to soar, 120.140, 160.180, 0.200, 0.220, 0.240, 0.260. As his pulse and blood pressure surged, Luo Feng's sea of consciousness was also greatly affected. Wisps of spiritual power began to overflow from the dark golden orb within his mind. Generally, a spiritual master's power gathers in the sea of consciousness, because their physical body is too weak to contain all of it. With the initial signs of awakening, Luo Feng suddenly felt his heartbeat accelerate, and his entire body was racked with even greater pain. As the pain intensified, even Luo Feng's formidable willpower couldn't withstand it, and he collapsed into a coma on the spot. However, this coma was entirely a good thing for him. Firstly, his strength rose to the level of a warrior, and secondly, he had initially awakened as a spiritual master. With further stimulation, it was highly possible for him to achieve a full awakening as a spiritual master. Ding! Your bound friend Luo Feng has initially awakened as a spiritual master. You have obtained a planetary level 1 dark golden orb and have successfully awakened as a spiritual master. In truth, judging from Luo Feng's experience of awakening as a spiritual master, it isn't entirely a good thing. At the very least, the awakening process is accompanied by excruciating pain, which would be unbearable for most people. Wei Wen, who was in another examination room, had already learned of Luo Feng's situation through the system's feedback reward. The pain of awakening suddenly caused Wei Wen's blood pressure to spike and his heartbeat to accelerate. Logically, with the system's enhancement, his mental power was already higher than Luo Feng's, so the pain of awakening shouldn't have been any less intense. Even someone with Luo Feng's iron will couldn't endure it, let alone Wei Wen, whose willpower was comparatively weak. But to his surprise, Wei Wen found that, when he awakened as a spiritual master, he only experienced mild pain, nowhere near as severe as Luo Feng's. Wei Wen couldn't help but feel relieved at this weakening of the negative feedback. Although it's a bit uncomfortable, the system seems to favor positive feedback. This level of negative impact is manageable for me. Wei Wen revealed a slight smile. Every time Luo Feng grew stronger or encountered opportunities, it was never a smooth journey. If he remembered correctly, the agony Luo Feng endured while refining the blood Luo crystal and the star tower, both mentally and consciously, was something an ordinary person could never withstand. If that kind of intensified feedback were to befall Wei Wen, given his willpower, he might very well perish on the spot. After all, compared to Luo Feng, his will and mentality were far inferior. But now, with the negative feedback significantly weakened, Wei Wen felt a secret relief, knowing he wouldn't die for some inexplicable reason. After calming down, Wei Wen began to carefully examine the system's feedback and his own condition. First of all, like Luo Feng, Wei Wen had initially awakened as a spiritual master. Moreover, thanks to the system's feedback, the spiritual power hidden within Wei Wen's sea of consciousness was even more powerful than Luo Feng's. If Luo Feng's rapid growth as a spiritual master could only last until the peak of the God of War level, Wei Wen could directly reach the planetary level. Additionally, while Luo Feng's initial awakening increased his punching power by about 300 kilograms, Wei Wen felt his own strength had improved even more. This was likely because the mental power he received as feedback was at the planetary level, meaning more spiritual energy was latent within his sea of consciousness. Previously, Wei Wen's strength might have only been at the intermediate student level, but now his punching power had directly reached about 1,200 kilograms. The requirement for the Quasi-Warrior exam is only 900 kilograms of punching power. Of course, the Quasi-Warrior assessment isn't just about punching power. It also tests speed and nerve reaction speed. The exam soon concluded. Upon leaving the examination room, Wei Wen heard news that a candidate had lost consciousness inside. It didn't take a genius to figure out it was Luo Feng. After all, the system had just given him feedback. Hospital. After Luo Feng regained consciousness, his parents and younger brother quickly gathered around him. Worried that he was too disheartened, they began to comfort him. Xue Feng, don't blame yourself for this college entrance exam. It was that headache. Exactly, this condition hasn't acted up for years. Why did it have to happen during the college entrance exam? After coming to, Luo Feng managed to force a smile and accompanied his father and brother out of the hospital lobby. Although he felt dejected, he didn't want to pass this negativity on to his family. While Wei Wen felt there was no need to worry excessively about Luo Feng, he still owed his own spiritual awakening partly to Luo Feng's hard work. So he went to the hospital to visit and offer his condolences. Wei Wen, thank you for coming. I failed the exam this time. How did yours go? Luo Feng was genuinely touched to see Wei Wen rush over. Even if you passed out in the exam room, my grades probably still wouldn't be as good as yours, so don't worry about it, Wei Wen chided lightly. Besides, even if your results aren't great, there's another path, becoming a warrior. Luo Feng possessed a strong ability to adapt. While not making the undergraduate cutoff in the college entrance exam might be a significant blow to his future plans, falling into a coma wasn't entirely bad. It had, after all, greatly enhanced his physical fitness. Compared to exam results, one's own strength was clearly more important. Thinking of this, the corners of Luo Feng's mouth curled up slightly, restoring his confidence. It doesn't matter if I can't get into military academy, it's not the end of the world, Luo Feng said with a smile. This coma turned out to be a blessing in disguise. My strength has improved tremendously. I'm absolutely confident I can pass the Quasi-Warrior assessment and the combat test to become a true warrior. In fact, if he had continued training step by step without initially awakening as a spiritual master, Luo Feng estimated it would have taken him another year or two of hard work to reach the level of a Quasi-Warrior. But this initial spiritual awakening, stimulated by telekinetic power, had dramatically increased his strength. a warrior. Luo Feng's parents and younger brother couldn't help but be astonished at the confidence in his words. What did a warrior represent? Warriors represented the most transcendent group in human society, symbolizing strength, authority, wealth, and status. And if Luo Feng became a warrior, he could bring various benefits to the family and change their destiny. Seeing Luo Feng regain his confidence made Wei Wen look forward to his future performance even more. After all, this was the nature of his lie-flat system's golden finger. If Luo Feng died, he could only forcefully revive him. His goal was to have Luo Feng work more efficiently for him, making his own lying flat lifestyle more comfortable and effortless. Therefore, whenever possible, he needed to constantly urge Luo Feng to strive harder so that both of them could have a better future. Extreme Martial Club Hall. If I want to constantly urge Luo Feng, it's best if I become a warrior like him. Wei Wen looked up at the Extreme Martial Club Hall in Yin District ahead, swiped his card, and strode inside. To become a warrior, I must first pass the quasi-warrior assessment, which requires at least reaching the advanced senior student level anyway. He had just finished the college entrance exam today, so he had time to get his advanced senior student certification. With his current strength after the spiritual awakening, obtaining an advanced senior student certification should be very simple. As soon as Wei Wen, wearing an intermediate senior student badge, entered the large training hall for advanced senior students, he immediately attracted the attention of the instructor and a dozen or so advanced senior students present. You're only an intermediate senior student. You can't enter the advanced senior student training building without reason. Are you here to take the advanced senior student assessment? The instructor asked as Wei Wen approached. Yes, Wei Wen nodded. Then follow me. The instructor nodded and led Wei Wen to the punching power testing machine in the corner. There's only one test for the advanced senior student certification. Your punching power must meet the standard. Are you ready? Ready. Wei Wen took a deep breath and relaxed completely. Then his right fist shot out like a cannonball, tracing an arc before striking the target of the punching power testing machine. Beep, beep, beep. Hearing 3 consecutive sharp beeps from the punching force tester, the instructor was momentarily stunned. This machine didn't usually make such a sound. It only did so when the measured force exceeded 1,000 kg. He watched as Wei Wen's fist slammed into the target, causing it to shudder violently. On the screen, a number flashed, 1,180 kg, so high. The instructor's face was a mask of disbelief. Typically, a reading of 700 kg was enough to qualify as an advanced student, and most applicants hovered around that mark. But for Wei Wen, a newcomer to the assessment, to possess such staggering strength was simply incredible. Just outside the advanced students' teaching building, a middle-aged man in black, Zhang Nian, was returning. His bald head gleamed under the lights. Beep, 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 the faint, distinct sound from within the building caught him by surprise. The punching machines here are first-class models. Zhang Nian murmured to himself. They only beep when the force surpasses 1,000 kilograms. A look of curiosity crossed his face. Among all the advanced students in our Yin District Extreme Martial Club, who could possibly throw a punch that heavy? Driven by intrigue, he quickened his pace and entered the building. His eyes fell upon Wei Wen. This person, he doesn't seem to be one of our previous advanced students. Zhang Nian was taken aback. He knew all the advanced students by sight. Their numbers were few and their faces familiar. This youth, however, was clearly a new face and remarkably young at that, to possess such strength at such a tender age. He was undoubtedly confident of passing the quasi-warrior assessment and the subsequent combat test, paving his way to becoming a true warrior. As an instructor, discovering a talented student like this came with significant rewards. Young man over here, Instructor Zhang Nian called out with a warm smile. May I ask your name and age? Wei Wen. 18 years old, came the straightforward reply. Excellent. To meet a warrior's physical standards so young is remarkable. Perhaps in the future, I'll be relying on you to earn some contribution points for our club, Zhang Nian said, his delight evident. You're here for the advanced student assessment, right? Come, I'll take you to complete the formalities. Thank you, instructor, Wei Wen offered a slight smile. You're welcome. Once you officially become a warrior, how would you like to join my extreme martial club? Jiang Nian suggested, his smile widening. If you become a warrior through us, our gym will provide you with a single-family villa in the best area. And if you continue to excel, I can recommend you to our superiors for even more resources. No problem, Wei Wen replied lightly. He had already planned to join the Extreme Martial Club. Their benefits and welfare packages were indeed top tier. After completing the necessary procedures, Wei Wen obtained his advanced student certificate as desired. The morning of June 6th was clear, with crisp, fresh air. Luo Feng and Wei Wen walked together toward the Yin District Extreme Martial Club. Luo Feng was surprised to see Wei Wen, who had been coasting along for years, accompanying him to the gym for the first time. But what came next shocked him even more. On July 1st, let's go to the Extreme Club Hall, the headquarters of Extreme Martial Club in Yangzhou City, to take the Quasi-Warrior assessment, Wei Wen suggested casually. Besides planning to rely on Luo Feng, Wei Wen also intended to secure some resources for himself by leveraging his knowledge of future events. Wei Wen, are you sure you can pass the Quasi-Warrior exam? Luo Feng couldn't help exclaiming, the Quasi-Warrior assessment. If his memory served him right, Wei Wen hadn't trained seriously in ages. At best, his punching strength might have been on par with an intermediate student's. But then again, Luo Feng knew Wei Wen well. He wasn't one to make empty boasts. Could it be that Wei Wen truly possessed the strength to pass? How is that possible? It's just the Quasi-Warrior assessment. I don't see it as a big deal, Wei Wen said nonchalantly. If you don't believe me, how about an arm wrestling match to test my strength? His reasons for taking the assessment were twofold. First, to obtain resources, and second, to motivate Luo Feng, pushing him to train with even greater determination. All right, let's give it a try. Luo Feng extended his right hand. Bring it on. Wei Wen met his challenge, and their hands locked together. Luo Feng's right arm trembled slightly as he mustered all his strength, his body tensing like a coiled spring. He pushed against Wei Wen's arm as if trying to move an immovable object. He hadn't held back, using his full power from the start. Sensing this, Wei Wen also began to exert his own strength in earnest, such power. Luo Feng was inwardly shocked. There were only 3 advanced students in their entire third high school, and Luo Feng was one of them. Despite his calm demeanor, he couldn't help but feel a certain pride in his abilities. Of course, even with all his hard work, it was only because of his mysterious headaches that he felt truly confident about passing the Quasi-Warrior exam. But when he thought about it, Wei Wen had been sleeping in class for years and always seemed carefree during gym visits. In short, he had hardly practiced at all recently. Yet now, he possessed such formidable strength. Luo Feng's expression grew solemn. I must surpass this genius, Wei Wen. A fierce resolve ignited within Luo Feng, who was not one to admit defeat easily. In the eyes of ordinary people, competing with a genius like Wei Wen was unthinkable. But in Luo Feng's eyes, this peerless talent was the very first benchmark he needed to catch up to and surpass. Luo Feng didn't believe in the adage of the early bird. He simply decided he would have to work 10 times harder from now on. If Wei Wen knew about Luo Feng's self-motivated, almost obsessive thoughts, he'd probably be laughing like a drain. But judging by Luo Feng's expression, Wei Wen felt his goal had been achieved. As long as Luo Feng started grinding, his own path would be smoother. Extreme Martial Club, Advanced Students Teaching Building. Luo Feng and Wei Wen are taking the Quasi-Warrior assessment. Luo Feng only became an advanced student last year. How can he take the assessment this year? Wei Wen is even more unbelievable. Wasn't he just an intermediate student before? Not anymore. I heard Wei Wen just updated his student ID yesterday. They say he punched 1,180 kg. Hiss. The other advanced students sucked in cold breaths. Subconsciously, they didn't want to believe that Wei Wen and Luo Feng had already met the physical fitness standards of a full warrior. But the reality was that these two were already on a completely different level. Nanan Community, Luo Feng's home. Xiao Feng, that's enough. You should rest now, Luo Hongguo said, watching his son with deep concern. While Luo Feng had always trained diligently, he had never pushed himself to such desperate extremes before. Finally, Luo Feng finished his last move, his energy utterly spent. He collapsed weakly to the ground, breathing in heavy, ragged gasps. Wei Wen's talent is beyond mine. I have to work even harder, Luo Feng panted, explaining his relentless drive. His parents had heard about Wei Wen's strength from him and understood the fire driving their son forward. Your friend Luo Feng is practicing his movement technique. Your comprehension of movement techniques is steadily increasing. Congratulations, you have reached the micro level. Wei Wen, who had been lounging listlessly on his bed, shot upright as if electrified, staring at the prompt hovering before his eyes. In truth, his strength had seen no significant improvement for over 10 consecutive days since the college entrance examination. But now, having transformed by emulating the Scroll King, Luo Feng's insights into movement techniques had been elevated within Wei Wen, directly surpassing Luo Feng himself and reaching the micro level first. It seems the previous stimulation was simple yet effective. Wei Wen couldn't help but smile. It looks like future improvements will almost entirely depend on Luo Feng. Wei Wen was very satisfied with Luo Feng's talent. He was a truly qualified, hard worker to rely on. The Extreme Martial Club Hall held monthly assessments for Quasi-Warrior on the first day of each month. Early on the morning of July 1st, Wei Wen and Luo Feng left the Nanan residential area together, heading for the Yangzhou Minju Community's Extreme Club, the headquarters of the Extreme Martial Club Hall. As time passed, several senior students arrived after Wei Wen and Luo Feng. This time, a total of 9 people were participating in the Quasi-Warrior assessment. These individuals all looked older. Some were estimated to be over 30, and others even over 40. Wei Wen and Luo Feng, participating at such a young age, naturally became the focus of this assessment. After all, the younger one took the Quasi-Warrior assessment, the greater their potential. All right, all of you, follow me upstairs for the assessment, a warrior instructor who had come downstairs around 10 a.m. said. Yes. Wei Wen, Luo Feng, and the others nodded. As the instructor arrived, everyone responded respectfully. 6th floor. A large martial arts training hall served as the venue for the Quasi-Warrior assessment. Upon entering, Wei Wen and the others found a dozen martial arts instructors already present, among them Jiang Nian. When Jiang Nian saw Wei Wen and Luo Feng, a hint of anticipation flashed in his eyes. All right, get ready for the test. Chief Instructor Wu Tong glanced at the time and walked up to the senior students. Come forward one by one and give me your ID cards first. After collecting the ID cards from the 9 participants, Chief Instructor Wu Tong couldn't help showing a trace of surprise. 2 18-year-olds taking the assessment this time, and both are from Yin District. Interesting. You two will go first. Wu Tong randomly selected one of the IDs belonging to Luo Feng and Wei Wen and swiped it on an instrument nearby. Beep. The instrument projected a crystal-clear, transparent screen displaying a wealth of Wei Wen's personal information. The first one, Wei Wen. Wu Tong looked at Jiang Nian beside him. Old Jiang, he's from your Yin District. When did such a talented youngster appear there? Haha, just a stroke of luck. I never expected him to be this capable, the instructor Jiang Nian replied, unable to hide his happy smile. Wei Wen, go on and show them what a talented student from Yin District is made of. Wei Wen nodded and walked towards the Superforce testing machine. Hearing that Wei Wen was only 18, the instructor's gazes fell upon him one by one. All the participating students also looked at Wei Wen, awaiting his performance. In truth, Wei Wen's strength was more than sufficient to pass the assessment. His purpose in taking it was to legitimately obtain the gene energy cultivation method. Otherwise, he would have no way to explain his sudden increases in strength in the future. Wei Wen stood seriously before the punching force tester. He shifted his weight slightly, and a powerful force erupted from his waist and hips. His fist shot out like a cannonball, leaving an afterimage as it slammed hard into the machine's target. Beep. 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 A line of data immediately appeared on the display. 1,240 kg, just from the sound, every warrior instructor present knew that Wei Wen's punching power exceeded 1,000 kg. With such strength at such a young age, few would dare to look down on him. Luo Feng, looking at Wei Wen's result, secretly resolved to train as hard as he always had. Haha, Jiang Nian, seeing that Wei Wen's result was even higher than last time, couldn't help but rub his shiny bald head. Wei Wen, punching force 1,240 kg, passes the strength test. Wu Tong revealed a smile. Although a warrior's prowess in this era was primarily judged by actual combat, there were still rigid standards for becoming a quasi-warrior. For instance, the qualifying benchmark for punching force was 900 kg. For running speed, it was 25 m/s. Furthermore, since warriors often needed to combat monsters, physical reaction speed was also crucial, requiring a level equivalent to a junior warrior. Only by meeting the standards in all three areas could one pass the quasi-warrior assessment and proceed to the next round of combat evaluation. Wei Wen and the other 8 participants quickly completed the strength test. Only one of them fell short of 900 kg and was directly eliminated. Next was the speed test, in which Wei Wen also achieved excellent results. Although he hadn't practiced movement techniques extensively, the insights he gained from Luo Feng were, in essence, his own, and were even superior to Luo Feng's. After the speed test, 2 more people were eliminated. In the end, only 6 participants, including Wei Wen and Luo Feng, remained for the final assessment, the neural reaction speed test. "Follow me," Wu Tong said, leading the group of warriors and the remaining 5 candidates into the neural response testing room connected to the training hall. Compared to the massive, 1,000-square-meter training hall, the neural response testing room was significantly smaller. A tall, sophisticated instrument stood on the ground, its front equipped with a Gatling gun-like apparatus. In fact, compared to ordinary people from Earth's past, modern powerful individuals not only possessed greater strength and speed, but also neural reaction speeds far surpassing the norm. Thus, the device had dozens of muzzles capable of firing special rubber bullets, far more than a typical Gatling gun. The first one, Wei Wen, Chief Instructor Wu Tong announced. Having observed Luo Feng's test previously, Wei Wen was already familiar with the process. Combined with his movement technique, having reached the micro-level, this final test was a breeze for him. Wei Wen stepped calmly into the center of a circle approximately 3.6 meters in diameter in front of the neural response speed tester. Click. Wu Tong switched on the instrument. Suddenly, the edges of the circle emitted a misty red light upwards, enveloping Wei Wen within. "You all know the rules, so I won't elaborate," Wu Tong said directly. "Are you ready?" "Ready." As soon as Wei Wen finished speaking, Wu Tong pressed a series of buttons. Whir tilde, the Gatling gun-like muzzles of the neural response tester began to spin rapidly, firing streaks of red light in rapid succession. The red lights varied in speed, and their trajectories were chaotic and unpredictable as they shot into the red-lit circle. Not a problem. Wei Wen thought, feeling completely at ease as he sensed the speed and frequency of the red lights. He was seen weaving and dodging within the circle, as if strolling through a tranquil garden, his movements smooth and fluid like drifting clouds and flowing water. Each step he took was small, and the range of his evasions was minimal, yet his body accurately avoided rubber bullet after rubber bullet within the barrage of red light. This young man is very impressive. His neural reaction speed seems even better than his punching power and speed. One martial arts instructor remarked. Indeed, he dodges every time without losing his balance and can change direction in an instant, as if he has complete control over the situation. This level of skillful movement usually takes decades of hard training to achieve, yet he's managed it at such a young age. The martial arts instructors present were full of praise. They were all astonished by Wei Wen's reaction speed, unaware that his ease stemmed from his movement technique, having reached the micro-level. "Is this the micro-level?" The well-informed Wu Tong was instantly shocked. Most warriors at the student level find it difficult to comprehend the micro-level of movement technique. The fact that Wei Wen achieved this, before even becoming a warrior, is a testament to his exceptional comprehension. Coupled with his youth, this was the true source of Wu Tong's astonishment. When did Wei Wen comprehend the micro-level? He hasn't been practicing movement technique for long. Luo Feng was stunned. Just what level of comprehension is this? He had no idea that Wei Wen's attainment of the micro-level was also attributed to his relentless, hard training. Whoosh, 1 minute later, the neural response testing machine gradually slowed to a stop, displaying a line of data on the screen. Not hit once within 60 seconds, no contact with the red lights in the outer ring. The score is perfect. Although Chief Instructor Wu Tong had anticipated this, seeing the final result still shocked him. Wei Wen, you have passed all 3 tests. Congratulations on passing this quasi-fighter assessment. Once the relevant documents are processed, and your information is entered into the Citizen Identity Database, you will officially be a quasi-warrior. If you can pass the practical combat assessment, you will become a true warrior. There are 2 practical combat assessments each year, on February 1st and August 1st. Today was July 1st, meaning there was exactly 1 month until the next assessment. Understood, Wei Wen nodded. As a participant, he was already familiar with the details of the practical combat assessment. Passing it would be a simple task. Afterwards, Luo Feng and the others proceeded with their assessments one by one. The final results were announced. A total of 4 individuals had passed the quasi-fighter assessment: Wei Wen, Luo Feng, Yang Wu, and Bai Yang. Congratulations to all 4 of you on becoming quasi-warriors, Chief Instructor Wu Tong said with a smile. I will now assist you with the gene energy cultivation method, signing the practical combat assessment contract, and other related matters. Chief Instructor Wu Tong glanced at the other instructors, and then walked towards a silver-haired man in black robes who had been standing off to the side. From Wei Wen's knowledge of the plot, this man was also a spiritual master, one more inclined towards the illusionist path. The spiritual master and illusionist seemed to take an interest in Wei Wen, giving him a measured glance. Huff for a moment, Wei Wen felt as if the silver-haired man's eyes were like the boundless starry sky, and his entire consciousness threatened to sink into them. But it lasted only a moment before Wei Wen regained his clarity. It wasn't that Wei Wen's willpower or resistance to illusions was extraordinarily strong, but rather that the spiritual power hidden within his sea of consciousness far surpassed that of this spiritual master. Interesting. I didn't expect to encounter an unexpected surprise like you, remarked the silver-haired man in black robes, a look of curiosity on his face. You either possess an immensely strong will, or you are a spiritual master yourself. Your comprehension is exceptional, indicating powerful consciousness and mental faculties. Furthermore, spiritual masters are exceedingly rare, so I'm inclined to believe it's the former. Of course, we cannot rule out the other possibility. Perhaps you truly are a spiritual master. As for which it is, we'll see if you awaken when you absorb gene energy for the first time. Due to the uncertainty, the white-haired spiritual master said no more and soon left the extreme hall with Wu Tong, a spiritual master. Everyone looked at Wei Wen in surprise. In the early stages of cultivation in this world, power generally fell into 2 categories. One originated from the body's genes and energy. Those who practiced this path were gene warriors. The other was a mysterious power of the soul, also known as spiritual power. Those who wielded this power were generally referred to as spiritual masters. Of course, spiritual masters could also practice gene energy, and warriors weren't incapable of becoming spiritual masters. However, on Earth alone, spiritual masters were incredibly rare. But rarity alone wasn't the most shocking aspect. The most astonishing thing was that a spiritual master could control multiple hidden weapons simultaneously for long-range attacks, and possessed the ability to fly. Before a warrior reached the planetary level, their internal force, gene energy, couldn't leave their body, preventing long-range attacks and flight. Therefore, spiritual masters held significant advantages over warriors. All right, whether someone is a spiritual master or not is unknown for now. Instructor Zhang Nian said, looking at Wei Wen and the other 3. Follow me to the training hall where we conducted the earlier tests. The group left the neural response testing room and re-entered the spacious martial arts training hall. This is the contract related to the warrior practical combat assessment. Once you sign it, you are committed to undergoing the assessment. Read it carefully, Zhang Nian explained succinctly. Wei Wen already knew the contract's contents, which essentially outlined the life and death risks involved. After a brief glance, he stopped paying it much mind and directly signed his name. The others also signed the contracts one after another. If they dared not face the weakest monsters in combat, they might as well abandon the path of a warrior altogether. Look here, this is the gene energy cultivation method, Instructor Zhang Nian said as he walked to a nearby projector and quickly pressed a series of buttons. Soon, a transparent screen appeared on the wall of the training hall, displaying an article titled Gene Energy Cultivation Method. The so-called gene energy cultivation method is essentially a technique for absorbing the energy present throughout the universe, Zhang Nian continued. Through this method, you integrate the absorbed energy into every cell of your body, using it to enhance your strength. With the gene energy cultivation method, your strength will increase at a much faster rate than before. The efficiency with which you practice this method largely reflects your innate talent as a warrior. Enough talk. Read it carefully and memorize the contents. There was only one primary gene energy cultivation method on Earth, the 5 acupoint skyward practices method. Judging by the overall limitations of Earth's warrior system, the level of the 5 acupoint skyward practices method was evidently not very high. Your bound friend, Luo Feng, has obtained the 5 acupoint skyward practices. You have obtained the gene energy cultivation method, 5 acupoints origin method. From past rewards, Wei Wen could already deduce that the related rewards he received were often superior versions. It was just that his own innate talent was average, and he didn't know if he could master it overnight like Luo Feng. Of course, it didn't matter overly much if he couldn't cultivate it perfectly himself. He could also enhance his gene energy by maintaining his connection with Luo Feng. Besides, the white-haired spiritual master was right. Wei Wen was a spiritual master. Once he began cultivating gene energy, he would not only awaken his spiritual power, but his overall strength would undergo a earth-shaking transformation. Moreover, his hidden spiritual power was potent enough to allow him to reach the planetary level with relative ease. Therefore, enhancing his warrior physique was the current key through this reward. Wei Wen realized for the first time that secret manuals could also be optimized. It seemed his strength would increase even faster than Luo Feng's in the future. That's all for today. Within this month before the practical combat assessment, you should try to absorb gene primal energy, Instructor Zhang Nian concluded. As for the gene energy cultivation method that speed up the absorption of gene energy, you'll need to become a formal warrior and spend money to acquire them. The function of a guide technique was to increase the total amount of gene energy absorbed. Even with the same innate talent, the quality of the gene energy cultivation method used created a vast difference in the cultivation speed of warriors. After the quasi-warrior examination, Wei Wen returned home and eagerly began practicing the 5 acupoints origin method. Wei Wen's genetic talent was inferior to Luo Feng's. Even though the 5 acupoints origin method was an optimized version of the gene cultivation technique, Wei Wen still found himself regretting his inability to master it. After all, the novel had stated that warriors with poor talent might not be able to sense gene energy even after a year and a half. It seems I can only rely on my brother, Luo Feng. Wei Wen couldn't help but secretly place his hopes on him, in the quiet of the night. Luo Feng sat in the cross-legged lotus position, the soles of his feet facing upward, his palms similarly upturned. His breathing was nearly inaudible, his heart tranquil. With exceptional willpower and self-control, he soon achieved a state of complete calm, focusing all his attention on sensing the gene energy. The first time sensing gene energy is the most difficult. One must sense it before being able to absorb the universal energy. A genius like Luo Feng could sense it on his very first day of practice. After about an hour and a half of sensing, Luo Feng's eyes suddenly snapped open in surprise. Once the initial surprise subsided, his thoughts turned to his good brother, Wei Wen. I wonder if Wei Wen has sensed the gene energy yet, Luo Feng mused to himself. However, his comprehension and talent aren't low. He's bound to succeed, and he might even manage it faster than I did, right? If Luo Feng knew that Wei Wen's success relied entirely on him, who knows what he would think? Your bound friend, Luo Feng, has successfully sensed gene energy through the 5 acupoints skyward practices. You have successfully sensed gene energy through the 5 acupoints origin method. Your bound friend Luo Feng has successfully absorbed gene energy through the 5 acupoints skyward practices, and his strength has increased significantly. Your strength is improving. What in the world? Wei Wen, who had been lying down and all but given up, suddenly sat upright as if jolted back to life. Wei Wen, who had previously been unable to sense any gene energy, now inexplicably sensed it. In a mysterious and profound sensation, Wei Wen felt vast amounts of gene energy continuously pouring into his body, guided by the absorption method of the 5 acupoints origin method. His cells, starved for 18 years, greedily absorbed the gene energy and began to grow wildly, as if experiencing a second growth spurt. His cells, genes, and everything else began to transform. His skin, muscles, bones, all were rapidly enhancing. Even the deeper cellular genes started optimizing. The essence of a genetic warrior's training is the evolution of life itself. As the gene energy was absorbed, Wei Wen's strength began to increase rapidly. Perhaps Wei Wen's genetic talent wasn't as good as Luo Feng's, but thanks to the advantages of the 5 acupoints origin method and the feedback from being bound to Luo Feng. Bolstered by these cumulative benefits, the results of Wei Wen's first absorption of gene energy actually surpassed Luo Feng's. According to this world's logic, since the human body has never consciously absorbed cosmic energy since birth, it has always been in a state of hunger. Wei Wen thought to himself, the first time one absorbs cosmic energy is when the absorption is greatest and the strength improvement is fastest, and the amount of strength improvement also represents a person's talent. Wei Wen felt his entire body undergoing a fundamental transformation from the inside out. This was the most astonishing improvement he had experienced since childhood. His bone density was increasing, his cells were shrinking in size while dividing, one cell becoming 2, and his muscle tissue was optimizing itself. As this process continued, his strength underwent a earth-shaking transformation. Knowing the critical importance of this first practice session, he continued cultivating without pause. This is his first time consciously absorbing cosmic energy. Excluding the influence of Luo Feng being a spiritual master, his punch strength probably increased by about 600 kilograms. Wei Wen estimated, but the improvement from my absorption of gene energy this time alone is over 1,000 kg, and that's not even including the spiritual master awakening. That's right. Deep within Wei Wen's consciousness, in areas currently undetectable, the continuous influx of gene energy even reached his mind, stimulated by the gene energy. Changes different from his initial awakening began to occur deep within Wei Wen's brain. The mental force sphere in his sea of consciousness began to rotate, continuously releasing mist-like spiritual energy. This change was subtle, and even Wei Wen, while absorbing the gene energy, remained unaware of it. However, as the spiritual energy gradually released, it automatically spread throughout his body. The physique that had already been greatly enhanced by absorbing gene energy now began to change dramatically once more. Wei Wen clearly felt his warrior strength surging significantly again. The reason for this was the inherently powerful spiritual energy that spiritual masters are born with. It's just that a spiritual master, whose body is too weak, cannot withstand such potent mental force, so the spiritual energy remains latent within the sea of consciousness. But as physical fitness grows stronger and reaches a certain threshold, the mental force gradually begins to release. In short, the stronger one's physical fitness, the more spiritual energy one can withstand. Generally, there is a gap of 2 levels between physical fitness and mental strength. Assuming Wei Wen now had the physique of a quasi-warrior, his spiritual energy would quickly rise to the level of an intermediate warrior. And as his body grows stronger, more of the latent spiritual energy will gradually be released, eventually closing the 2-level gap completely. However, the hidden spiritual energy of a spiritual master is finite. Sooner or later, the day will come when all of it is fully unleashed. Therefore, a spiritual master's potential depends on how much spiritual energy lies dormant within their sea of consciousness. When the absorption of gene energy and the release of spiritual energy were complete, Wei Wen opened his eyes. Boom! Wei Wen threw a punch, the force alone causing the air to roar, demonstrating just how much his strength had increased. Although I don't know the exact numbers, my punch power is probably around 6,000 kg, which is the level of an intermediate warrior. Wei Wen was overjoyed. Luo Feng's first absorption of gene energy, combined with his spiritual energy release, totaled a strength increase of about 2,000 kg. But Wei Wen's warrior strength increase this time was more than double that of Luo Feng's. Before the latent spiritual energy is fully exhausted, a spiritual master's level is 2 tiers higher than their warrior level. So right now, I am an intermediate warrior or spiritual master. Wei Wen's eyes gleamed, and I'm no ordinary intermediate warrior. Such a tremendous boost in strength filled Wei Wen with immense excitement. He closed his eyes again, carefully sensing every aspect of his being. First, his consciousness became aware of the sea of consciousness and the spiritual energy within, unlike his initial awakening, where he couldn't perceive it at all. He could now clearly sense his spiritual energy, and it felt far more vigorous. No longer was it bound and restricted as before. With a mere thought, aided by his mental force, Wei Wen's body gradually rose and hovered in the air. This was the greatest advantage of a spiritual master in the early stages: flight. This ability alone allowed spiritual masters to accomplish feats that were difficult for genetic warriors. For instance, gaining a high vantage point made it easier to spot monsters and harder to be ambushed by them. Early the next morning, subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. Jiang Nian sought out Wei Wen impatiently, primarily because Wei Wen had left a deep impression on him previously. First, during the advanced student verification, Wei Wen had demonstrated strength rivaling a junior warrior. Secondly, during Wei Wen's quasi-warrior assessment, he had even displayed rudimentary mastery of body techniques. Jiang Nian judged that Wei Wen, with his talent in cultivation and excellent comprehension, was highly likely to have successfully sensed gene energy within a day. Furthermore, Jiang Nian secretly harbored the hope that Wei Wen might have awakened as a spiritual master. Regardless of whether Wei Wen was a spiritual master or not, his youth alone signified great potential. If he were the one to discover and recommend a genius of this caliber, he could scarcely imagine the benefits it would bring him. After finding Wei Wen, Jiang Nian went straight to the point, unable to contain his eagerness. Wei Wen, how was your practice with the 5 acupoints skyward practices yesterday? With Wei Wen's level of comprehension, cultivating genetic energy wouldn't be a problem. No matter how significant his improvement, his mastery of micro-level movement techniques would easily see him through the combat assessment. Once he became a warrior, he might attract attention from forces like the Thunder Dojo or the HR Alliance. Therefore, Jiang Nian's intention was to recruit Wei Wen in advance for the Extreme Martial Club. I practiced the 5 acupoints skyward practices yesterday and have successfully sensed genetic energy, Wei Wen replied with a light smile. As for the exact improvement in my strength, I'm not entirely sure, but I feel I've grown significantly stronger. Whoosh, Wei Wen threw a punch into the air, generating a sharp gust of wind. Even Jiang Nian was startled by the speed of the punch. With his keen eyesight, he could tell that Wei Wen's strength had already surpassed his own. Wei Wen had no intention of hiding his warrior strength. It was inevitable that he would draw attention sooner or later. Revealing some of his power now was actually beneficial. However, he had no plans to expose his identity as a spiritual master. The emergence of every spiritual master caused a major stir, as they were even rarer than planetary-level powerhouses. Wei Wen, you've really been hiding your strength. Your power is no less than mine now. Jiang Nian's eyes lit up. And for your first absorption of genetic energy to yield such a significant improvement, your genetic talent is also exceptional. I previously thought you only had high comprehension, but I never expected you to be an all-around genius. The degree of improvement from one's first absorption of genetic energy often reflects their innate talent. For an ordinary quasi-warrior, punching power might increase by around 300 kg. An excellent quasi-warrior could see an increase of about 600 kg. An elite quasi-warrior might gain roughly 1,000 kg. A genius-level quasi-warrior could achieve an increase of about 2,000 kg. Although Wei Wen's exact punching power hadn't been tested yet, it was clearly far beyond the standard for a genius quasi-warrior, placing him in the category of a peerless genius. But Wei Wen knew better than anyone that his current achievements were entirely due to Luo Feng. If he hadn't clung to Luo Feng's coattails, he would never have reached this level. Still, as long as he kept this to himself, no one would ever find out. At the very least, Jiang Nian remained unaware. He looked at Wei Wen like an ordinary person who had just stumbled upon a priceless treasure. To have mastered micro-level movement techniques at 18 years old, and to have reached the advanced warrior level after his first genetic energy cultivation, what kind of genius was this? The mere thought of it left Jiang Nian slightly stunned. He recalled what his superiors had once said about past talents selected for the training camps. Under normal circumstances, within Jiangnan Base City, the Extreme Martial Club would select only 2 or 3 individuals per year for the basic training camp. As for the elite training camp, only one person was selected every 5 years or so. A genius of Wei Wen's caliber had the potential to enter the basic training camp, or even the elite training camp. Of course, this was only a possibility until approved by the gym's leadership and senior management. After all, admission to the elite training camp was a matter of great importance, with every spot watched by countless eyes worldwide. Not even Xue Ying, the president of the Jiangnan Base City General Hall and a powerful god of war, had the authority to decide alone. He had to report to headquarters for approval. Let's go to the martial arts gym to test your current strength. We can also discuss you joining the Extreme Martial Club in advance, Jiang Nian suggested. Although he had always held high expectations for Wei Wen, the young man had still exceeded them. No problem. Wei Wen nodded and followed Jiang Nian to the Extreme Martial Club. There was no need to hide his strength. Instead, letting others see him as a peerless genius would make his future, more outrageous achievements seem less shocking. On the way to the Yin District Extreme Martial Club. Recruiting a monster-level genius like you requires personal review from headquarters. This test will also serve as verification of your strength, Jiang Nian explained. As he spoke, he took out his phone and said HQ. The call connected automatically, and a figure appeared on the screen. Jiang Nian, what do you need? Asked a white-haired old man on the screen with a faint smile. Uncle Bai, we've discovered a genius warrior in Yin District, Jiang Nian said excitedly. First, during his quasi-warrior assessment yesterday, Chief Instructor Wu Tong confirmed that he had already grasped micro-level movement techniques. I went to see him today and verified that he has cultivated genetic energy. His strength has far surpassed mine. He's at least at the intermediate student level. With high genetic talent and exceptional comprehension, he's definitely a monster-level genius. What? The white-haired old man's eyes widened. He took a sharp breath, his face filled with disbelief. How old is he? After a moment of silence, the old man spoke again, his voice trembling slightly. The younger Wei Wen was, the greater his potential, and conversely, his potential rating would be higher. He's only 18 this year, so he's undoubtedly a genius with extremely high potential. Jiang Nian replied promptly. 18. The white-haired old man was shocked once more. Take him to the Jiangnan Base City HQ immediately. I'm going to find the president now to witness this young man's strength test. Additionally, if the president personally intervenes, and Wei Wen is willing to join our club in advance, the treatment offered will certainly be exceptional. Normally, a warrior joining the Extreme Martial Club might only receive a villa and startup capital of 100 million coins. But for a genius like Wei Wen, aside from a villa, the startup capital should be at least several hundred million. At the same time, our gym will also provide him with a selection of free technique manuals, worth at least another several hundred million. Generally, only those who pass the combat assessment and officially become warriors are eligible to join various forces. But for a genius like Wei Wen, if his talent were discovered by the Thunder Dojo, various families in the HR Alliance, or other organizations during the assessment, the competition to recruit him would be fierce. Therefore, the white-haired old man wanted the president to step in and recruit Wei Wen for the Extreme Martial Club in advance. Moreover, Wei Wen's unparalleled achievements at such a young age, coupled with his potential to become a future god of war, were enough to alarm even a powerful figure like Xue Ying. Understood. I can't believe the president is getting involved. I'll bring him to headquarters right away. Jiang Nian said, his excitement evident. The more attention Wei Wen received, the greater Jiang Nian's contribution would be for discovering and recommending him, and the greater his rewards would naturally be. Wei Wen, I originally planned to test your strength here in Yin District first, but as you heard, would you mind coming with me to HQ now? Jiang Nian asked cautiously. No problem, Wei Wen replied with a smile. Joining the Extreme Martial Club had always been part of his plan, especially since they were known for their generosity. The entire 31st floor of the Extreme Martial Arts headquarters building in Jiangnan Base City was a vast, empty training hall. The hall was silvery white. A man in a white training uniform sat barefoot in the center, cross-legged. Old Bai, what brings you to me in person? The man asked. A powerful warrior's hearing is exceptionally sharp. The man in the white training uniform turned toward the white-haired old man, his voice low and authoritative. President, Jiang Nian just recommended a genius to headquarters. The white-haired old man reported respectfully and meticulously, detailing Wei Wen's circumstances and performance from beginning to end. What? As the white-haired old man spoke, Xue Ying's expression began to shift. No one is perfect in this world. Across the globe, there are many warriors whose physical fitness improves at an astonishing rate. Take, for instance, the Great Nirvana period. In just a few years, Hong, the world's strongest man, and Thunder God, the second strongest, broke through to become planet-level powerhouses. Their growth to such heights in mere years is a testament to the fact that the world still holds super geniuses. Of course, this doesn't mean Wei Wen is inferior to them. However, comprehending micro-level body techniques depends entirely on one's own insight. Wei Wen's physical fitness is improving rapidly, clearly indicating great genetic talent, to reach the micro-level at just 18 years old. Ordinary geniuses like Xue Ying, a god of war, wouldn't pay much mind, but for a genius like Wei Wen, who has the potential to join the elite training camp, even he feels a thirst for talent. The elite training camp, also known as the God of War Reserve, is the finest warrior training base in the world. Yet, the elite training camp only recruits 10 students from across the globe each year. Those who enter are undoubtedly super geniuses. In the novel, Luo Feng was 19, possessed a junior warrior-level physique, and had achieved the 3rd stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade technique, earning him a chance to take the assessment. Perhaps Wei Wen doesn't seem quite as impressive as Luo Feng was at that time, but freaks like Wei Wen, with both talent and comprehension, are rare in this world. With Wei Wen's talent and potential, even if he cannot enter the elite training camp, getting into the basic training camp is absolutely without issue. After a few years of rigorous training in the basic training camp, reaching the God of War level upon graduation would be effortless. If Wei Wen's luck surges and he manages to enter the elite training camp, he will undoubtedly become a God of War, and not an ordinary one at that. Furthermore, Wei Wen hails from Jiangnan Base City and represents the performance of the Jiangnan Extreme Martial Club Hall. How could Xue Zhengyang not pay close attention? Old Bai, are you sure what Zhang Nian said about Wei Wen is true? Xue Zhengyang revealed a trace of anticipation. I know Zhang Nian's character. Besides, if he were lying, we'd find out sooner or later. Why would he deceive us? The white-haired old man shook his head slightly. Good. Have you arranged for Zhang Nian to bring him to the headquarters? Xue Zhengyang's expression grew expectant. Go and make preparations. I will personally conduct an assessment and record for this young man later. Understood, President. I'll make the arrangements immediately. The white-haired old man replied respectfully. Instructor Zhang Nian utilized his warrior privileges and took Wei Wen directly to the main urban area of Jiangnan City by train. An hour later, they arrived at Jiangnan Base City, one of only 6 base cities in China. Afterward, they boarded a special bus from the Extreme Martial Club and soon reached the Extreme Martial Club headquarters. This is the Extreme Martial Club General Hall, the headquarters of the Extreme Martial Club in our Jiangnan Base City. Zhang Nian briefly explained. Follow me. Once inside the headquarters, Zhang Nian began introducing Wei Wen to the various aspects of the headquarters and the hierarchy of warrior strength. Warrior strength is categorized into levels, roughly divided into warrior level, war god level, and beyond. Each level is further split into elementary, intermediate, and advanced, making 9 levels in total. However, these designations, warrior, general, god of war, are names given by people on Earth. Beyond Earth, these 9 levels are referred to as apprentice level 1 to 9. Those above the apprentice level are planet level, known as parliamentarians on Earth. There are probably several dozen of them, representing the pinnacle of strength on Earth currently. Along the way, Zhang Nian gave Wei Wen a general overview of the Extreme Martial Club General Hall. Soon, the two arrived at their destination, the 31st floor of the headquarters building. Ding! The elevator doors opened, and Wei Wen followed Zhang Nian into the vast martial arts training hall ahead. The moment he entered, Wei Wen's gaze fell upon a man dressed in white training clothes. Based on his knowledge of the plot, this should be President Xue Zhengyang, a mid-level god of war. You're here. The white-haired old man smiled upon seeing Zhang Nian. Zhang Nian, is this Wei Wen? Indeed. Zhang Nian nodded. Hearing the white-haired old man's words, Xue Zhengyang, who had been sitting cross-legged, stood up and looked intently at Wei Wen. I heard you employed micro-level body techniques during the quasi-warrior examination. What Xue Zhengyang valued most was Wei Wen's comprehension. Yes. Wei Wen responded, Excellent. Your situation is special and you have every hope of entering the basic training camp. You must give your all in this test, Xue Zhengyang said with a serious expression. Old Bai, begin the test. First, check the extent of his strength after cultivating genetic energy. All right. The white-haired old man nodded and activated the camera nearby to record Wei Wen's assessment. Wei Wen wasted no time. Taking a deep breath, he swiftly approached the punching strength testing machine. At that moment, Zhang Nian, Uncle Bai, and President Xue Zhengyang all watched Wei Wen with anticipation. Wei Wen suddenly erupted with full force, delivering a heavy punch squarely onto the machine's target. Bang! A powerful punch landed with a resounding impact. The target shuddered momentarily before a line of data, 6,406 kg, appeared on the display screen. 6,406 kg. Zhang Nian and the white-haired old man drew a sharp breath, staring at Wei Wen as if he were a monster. According to previous data, Wei Wen's punching strength was just over 1,000 kilograms during the quasi-warrior assessment. But now, after his first cultivation of genetic energy, his strength had directly increased by an exaggerated 5,000 kilograms. It was simply unbelievable. For a first-time absorption of genetic energy, there weren't many geniuses in the entire Jiangnan Base City, like Luo Feng, who could increase his punching power by 2,000 kilograms. Individuals like Wei Wen were rare across the entire world. It seems another monster has emerged from our Jiangnan Base City. Xue Zhengyang's face revealed a look of surprise. Continue testing his speed and nerve response speed. Phew. Wei Wen stepped out of the red circle of the nerve response testing machine and breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing the normal results displayed. Fortunately, he didn't falter at the critical moment. Instructor Jiang Nian, standing beside Wei Wen, also relaxed. Some individuals, under psychological pressure at crucial times, easily fail to display their normal strength. Soon, Wei Wen's final test results were revealed: punching strength, 6,406 kg speed, 80 m/s. Nerve response test, rated excellent at the advanced warrior level, passing the junior warrior level standard. Among the 3 physical fitness tests, the nerve response speed is particularly outstanding, even better than the other 2. Xue Zhengyang smiled. Jiang Nian, you've rendered great service by discovering such a genius in Yin District. The main credit goes to this young man, Wei Wen, for his hard work, talent, and comprehension, Jiang Nian said, looking pleased. Wei Wen, with your improved strength and your performance in micro-level body techniques, our Extreme Martial Club can definitely grant you early admission to the Martial Club, Xue Zhengyang said with a smile. Of course, rest assured, the conditions our Extreme Martial Club offers you will not be modest. At the very least, you will have a spot in the basic training camp. As for other benefits, old buy, go draft a contract, follow the standard template, no, modify some of the terms. Increase Wei Wen's startup capital to 10 billion, and raise the limit for freely selecting any movement, cultivation, and attack method secret manuals to 10 billion as well. Any extra expenditure will be covered by me personally. Based on Wei Wen's initial performance level, he shouldn't have qualified for this level of startup capital. But now, with such a dramatic improvement, it was clear President Xue Zhengyang held Wei Wen in high regard. Thank you, President, for your guidance. Wei Wen expressed his gratitude. When you reach the God of War level, you'll understand that this amount of money means little to a God of War like me. Xue Zhengyang smiled calmly. But talent and comprehension are only part of the equation if you wish to become a God of War. You'll need to put in even more effort in the future to go further. Additionally, if you can make significant progress during this period, perhaps I might even secure a spot for you in the elite training camp. Don't worry, President. I will definitely become a God of War in the future, and I will train even harder during this period. Wei Wen was brimming with confidence. It's just that today is only July 2nd, and there's still a month until the actual combat assessment. Can I purchase secret manuals in advance to practice and improve my strength? Wei Wen had developed a profound fear of insufficient strength ever since he felt he had become notable. Regardless of whether his talent would prove effective, he planned to give it a try. Of course, another reason for wanting warrior status in advance was to, for example, train Luo Feng and indirectly enhance his own strength. However, Wei Wen didn't expect that his idea would actually lead to Luo Feng also obtaining warrior status ahead of time. That's simple. Xue Zhengyang nodded. With your current strength, passing the actual combat assessment is effortless. I can use my authority as president to grant you the status of an Extreme Martial Club warrior in advance. Seeing things through to the end, and since it wasn't too troublesome, Xue Zhengyang directly granted Wei Wen early warrior status, allowing him to purchase secret manuals and technique guides. Under Xue Zhengyang's personal supervision, Lao Bai quickly drafted a new contract. Wei Wen skimmed through it and saw the terms were clearly laid out, devoid of any convoluted technical jargon. Finding no issues whatsoever, he signed the contract directly. As the saying goes, chivalrous men use force to break prohibitions, making it difficult to create truly binding treaties for warriors. Consequently, even a superpower like the Extreme Martial Club is quite lenient in its treatment of talented warriors. Especially when it comes to attracting warriors with great potential, various organizations and forces go all out, offering a range of generous conditions. However, as a time traveler, Wei Wen naturally knew that joining the Extreme Martial Club was his best choice, given his initially insufficient strength. In short, with this signed contract, Wei Wen officially became a member of the Extreme Martial Club. Due to Wei Wen's special circumstances, the club would directly procure his warrior certification in advance, exempting him from the actual combat assessment on August 1st. Furthermore, according to Xue Ying, if all went smoothly, the training arrangements for his entry into the club's training camp should be finalized in about 2 months. The delay was primarily because Wei Wen had just become a warrior and had no experience with force exertion techniques. Secondly, this year's training camp was already full, so adding a new member would likely require some procedural maneuvering, come August. Both the basic and elite training camps would embark on life and death adventures, which weren't suitable for a new warrior like Wei Wen. He was estimated to be sent to the Extreme Martial Club global headquarters around late August or early September. As for whether he would go to the elite training camp or the basic training camp, that depended on decisions from higher-ups and Wei Wen's own progress over the next 2 months. This is already the best outcome. After all, under normal circumstances, Luo Feng wouldn't enter the elite training camp until next year, Wei Wen thought to himself. This time, with quasi-warriors emerging one after another in the assessment, Wei Wen had achieved his goals. First, he had gained the attention of the Extreme Martial Club and joined early. Second, he had secured a spot in the training camp. Among many Swallowed Star fans, the elite training camp was practically a must-experience instance for every protagonist. Although Wei Wen's innate talent was poor, it didn't mean his growth rate had to be. After all, he had Luo Feng to rely on, so Wei Wen had no intention of missing out on the benefits there, for instance, Dragon Blood and the Black God suit. Dragon Blood could significantly boost his strength, while the Black God suit, a planet-grade protective gear, could alleviate his deep-seated fear of inadequacy. The issue was, although his lying flat system was powerful, it was too random, leaving Wei Wen with little control over its outcomes. Therefore, Wei Wen planned to focus on strengthening Luo Feng next, which would in turn strengthen himself. Otherwise, what was the point of having this cheat? To be honest, Wei Wen was different from Luo Feng. If not for his crippling fear of weakness, he wouldn't be so obsessed with becoming stronger. Otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen to lie flat and cling to Luo Feng's coattails after discovering his own poor talent. His current drive to grow stronger was simply to gain the ability to protect himself. For example, to resolve the crises involving the Golden Horned Beast and the Nalantian family, preventing Earth's people from suffering as they did in the novel. After that, he could explore the vast universe. If the opportunity arose, he could join the virtual universe company and work at its core levels. Finally, he'd just need to wait quietly for his amazing teammate, Luo Feng, to develop successfully, then effortlessly coast to victory. By the way, Wei Wen, Jiang Nian said as they walked back together. He was in a good mood and patted Wei Wen's shoulder. Your warrior profile information should be processed in about 2 days, and the relevant details will be sent to your mailbox then. You can use that information to log into our Extreme Martial Club website and access your warrior account. The 10 billion in free credit for purchasing techniques and the another 10 billion in startup capital must be used wisely. They're crucial for your future development. You can move into the villa in Minju community now. A few days. Wei Wen nodded silently. If he remembered correctly, Luo Feng took the quasi-warrior assessment on July 1st then, got jailed where he first discovered and used his telekinesis. After awakening, Luo Feng would probably return tonight and visit the Extreme Martial Club tomorrow. Wei Wen planned to coincidentally meet him there to give Luo Feng a little push. As he pondered, Wei Wen contemplated ways to help Luo Feng grow, to strengthen Luo Feng. After a moment's thought, Wei Wen remembered. Micro-level movement technique. His own strength couldn't leap forward in a short time, but with Luo Feng's mental power, achieving the basic micro-level in movement technique should be effortless, as it was in the novel. With Wei Wen's guidance, this progress could be accelerated. If Luo Feng reached the micro-level, could he be pushed to the perfection level? Movement technique levels on Earth were divided into 4 major stages: basic, micro, perfection, artistry. But according to the mainstream classification in the novel, the basic, micro, and perfection levels all fell under the basic movement technique category, in the universe. The so-called micro and perfection levels were related to certain skills. With sufficient practice and experience, they could be achieved. Therefore, mastering micro and perfection level movement wasn't overly difficult, as evidenced by Luo Feng reaching perfection level in just a few months in the original story. However, the artistry level was already a mysterious realm. During the Earth period, it wasn't explicitly mentioned that Luo Feng reached it, but by relying on Luo Feng's efforts, Wei Wen might just be able to reach the artistry level himself. Sigh in the dark of night, with a mere thought from Luo Feng, the stool levitated. He glanced at the nearby bed, and it too rose into the air under his control. Soon, everything in the entire bedroom was floating off the ground as if gravity had vanished like in space. What in the world is going on? Luo Feng's eyes widened as he took a deep breath. He was shocked to find he could actually control objects remotely. Could this be the spiritual power of the legendary spiritual master? Luo Feng didn't know much about spirit masters, but he could find some basic information. Spirit masters were generally powerful warriors who also cultivated genetic essence. However, on top of cultivating genetic essence, spirit masters possessed a second, even stronger energy, spiritual power. If I am a spiritual master, this spiritual power is far too potent. Luo Feng was astounded. My estimate might not be precise, but this power is probably several times stronger than my own punching strength. Still, whether this power is truly spiritual power needs to be confirmed through closer inspection later. Luo Feng had only seen one or two so-called spirit masters since childhood. One was the mysterious silver-haired man in black robes, whom the chief instructor of the Yangzhou City Extreme Martial Club, Wu Tong, had previously addressed as captain. The other was Wei Wen, whom this very black-robed, silver-haired man had suspected of being a spiritual master. In the quiet of his bedroom, having awakened his abilities as a spiritual master, Luo Feng was too excited to sleep. Since sleep was impossible, Luo Feng decided to absorb genetic essence and practice. He sat cross-legged on the bed, assuming the 5 acupoints skyward practices posture, closed his eyes, and began his cultivation. Having already experienced absorbing genetic essence before, and with genetic essence already present in his body, he instantly sensed its existence. This time, while absorbing genetic essence, Luo Feng also successfully sensed the spiritual power he had awakened. My head. Luo Feng felt a surge of cosmic energy pouring into his mind, stimulating his consciousness. A vast amount of spirit power suddenly surged forth from his sea of consciousness. This mist is this spiritual power. Luo Feng easily sensed that the power of the mist was the same spiritual energy he used to control objects. The dark golden ball released a massive amount of spirit power, not only granting him formidable spiritual master abilities, but simultaneously transforming his body. Ding! Your bound friend Luo Feng has awakened his spiritual power. You have undergone a second awakening of your spiritual power. What's going on? Wei Wen, who had been resting, saw the system notification flash before his eyes. Despite his exhausted state, he jolted upright in shock. If his memory served him right, this was his first time absorbing genetic energy. The massive surge in strength had triggered his initial awakening as a spiritual master on the spot. That first awakening had catapulted his warrior strength to a punching power of 6,400 kg. This was normal. When a spiritual master awakens, it significantly enhances their physical physique and strength. However, every spiritual master typically only gets one such opportunity for a major power-up. Wei Wen had already experienced that first awakening. He never imagined a second one was possible regardless. Wei Wen decided to give it a try. Besides, this was a special system reminder. How could it be wrong? After all, everything he had achieved so far was thanks to the system and Luo Feng. SSSH under Wei Wen's guidance, genetic energy streamed into his body through the Beihui points on the soles of his feet, his palms, and the crown of his head. The speed of absorbing cosmic energy today seems faster, just like during my first spiritual master awakening. A realization dawned on Wei Wen, and his eyes lit up. Cosmic energy flowed into his body through 5 channels, and every cell in his body frantically devoured this miraculous genetic energy. Stimulated by the genetic energy, Wei Wen suddenly felt his entire soul tremble. His sea of consciousness was boundless, already shrouded in endless mist. At its center, a dark golden sphere rotated slowly, like a celestial body. As it spun, it rapidly emitted streams of mist, causing the fog in this mysterious space to thicken rapidly. Under normal circumstances, the release speed of mental power wasn't nearly this fast. It was clear that Wei Wen was truly experiencing a bizarre second awakening. When the second awakening actually occurred, Wei Wen's mind went blank. But when he regained his composure, a hint of surprise flashed across his face. Whether this situation was normal or not, it was undoubtedly a good thing for Wei Wen. This second awakening opened a floodgate. The dark golden sphere continuously released spiritual power. This not only granted him stronger mental power, but also transformed his physique once more. Boom! Wei Wen clenched his fist and threw a punch, the force causing the air to roar. I'll find time tomorrow to go to the Extreme Martial Club and test my current strength. Wei Wen was eager to see the effects of this second awakening. Of course, even without a test, as a warrior, his control over his power was relatively accurate. His strength had probably increased by about 100% compared to before this awakening. He estimated his punching power was now around 10,000 kg generally. A punching strength of 4,000 kg is considered the baseline for a senior warrior-level combatant, while 8,000 kg is the baseline for a junior general-level warrior. This was only a rough standard, as strength nowadays wasn't judged solely by physical fitness, but by actual monster-slaying records. After all, physical fitness was just one aspect of strength. With superb blade techniques and movement techniques, the weak could defeat the strong. But that was a digression. The point was, after this second awakening, his warrior strength had reached the junior general level. Furthermore, before their spiritual power is exhausted, a spiritual master's strength is typically 2 major levels higher than their warrior level. This meant Wei Wen was now a spiritual master at the senior general level. Although a second awakening was unbelievable from every angle, this was a tremendous boon for Wei Wen. At 5 o'clock the next morning, as dawn broke, Luo Feng hurried to the Extreme Martial Club in Yin District. He hadn't received his official quasi-warrior certificate yet, so he used his senior martial arts student ID to enter the Advanced Student Teaching Building. Madman, congratulations on passing the quasi-warrior exam, a senior student exclaimed upon seeing Luo Feng. But, you've already passed. Why are you here so early? Luo Feng's nickname Madman had been around for a long time, probably since he defeated 3 senior students single-handedly. The warrior combat test is on August 1st. I need to prepare in advance, Luo Feng replied with a light smile. How did you guys find out I'm a quasi-warrior? He thought the news wasn't widely known. The teacher told us during training yesterday. Wei Wen, you, and Brother Yang have all become quasi-warriors, the senior student explained. I even saw Wei Wen earlier and confirmed it with him. Wei Wen. Luo Feng smiled. Just thinking about it, he had not only cultivated genetic energy on the first day, but also awakened as a spiritual master. Facing Wei Wen, the rival he aimed to surpass, Luo Feng finally felt he could breathe a little easier, a piercing howl. Luo Feng, who had just relaxed, was startled by a sharp sound coming from upstairs. Which master is making such a loud noise? Luo Feng wondered curiously. Immediately, he transformed into a blur, swiftly heading up the stairs towards the 4th floor. Normally, only quasi-warrior were allowed on the 4th floor, but now that Wei Wen was a warrior, he naturally had access. As for Luo Feng, having passed the quasi-warrior assessment, the duty officer turned a blind eye, allowing him to enter the 4th floor without issue. Luo Feng's gaze fell upon the sole figure in the 4th floor training hall, and he was momentarily stunned. Wei Wen, in the 4th floor martial arts training hall. It shouldn't be broken, right? Wei Wen switched on the punching power tester, took a deep breath, and stood before it. After briefly adjusting his breathing, Wei Wen threw his fist forward in a powerful arc, carrying an overwhelming force. Boom! A low, drum-like sound echoed as the punching target vibrated violently. A line of data immediately appeared on the display, 10,081 kg. An ordinary truck only weighs a few tons. One could imagine the sheer force behind Wei Wen's punch enough to send someone straight to the afterlife. The increase is pretty much what I expected, Wei Wen murmured, a satisfied smile gracing his lips. Damn, Wei Wen, was that sound just now from you? Luo Feng asked, utterly shocked. He walked towards Wei Wen, and when his eyes landed on the display screen, he froze upon seeing the number. 10,081 kg. Luo Feng stared at Wei Wen as if the latter had transformed from a human into a monster. Did you produce this data? After absorbing genetic energy and awakening, Luo Feng had also estimated his own strength, placing his punching power around 3,000 kg. Factoring in his spiritual master power, which should be about 4 times greater, that would be around 12,000 kg. Reaching that level, Luo Feng felt he might have finally surpassed Wei Wen and could finally relax when facing him. But witnessing Wei Wen's punch, Luo Feng realized he had celebrated too soon. Who else could it be but me? Wei Wen replied lightly. It was a simple method to gauge a general's strength, but judging by Luo Feng's expression, it seemed highly effective. Luo Feng wasn't one to give up easily. Even faced with Wei Wen's staggering punching power, he still held the courage to catch up and surpass him. After all, he was a spiritual master too. But Luo Feng didn't know that Wei Wen was also a spiritual master. Whether or not Luo Feng knew that Wei Wen was a spiritual master, he was fully aware of the typical standards for enhancing physical fitness by absorbing genetic energy. For a spiritual master like himself, increasing his punching power by 2,000 kg was already considered genius-level progress. Yet, Wei Wen had boosted his own punching power by nearly 9,000 kg. Wei Wen, how did you achieve such a massive increase in strength? Luo Feng asked, his expression one of bewilderment. Luo Feng was eager to learn the reason, and if possible, he wanted to emulate it, of course, through relentless hard work. Wei Wen declared earnestly, though his words were pure nonsense. It wasn't that Wei Wen refused to tell Luo Feng the truth, but the actual reason was simply unbelievable. Even if he explained it, Luo Feng wouldn't be able to replicate his method. Hard work. Luo Feng took a deep breath. It seems my efforts still aren't enough. The thought of Wei Wen's tremendous improvement, coupled with the fact that Wei Wen always arrived at the martial arts club earlier than him, suddenly jolted Luo Feng into clarity. Keep at it. Hearing Luo Feng's words, Wei Wen couldn't help but pat his shoulder approvingly. The only issue was that the effect was a bit too potent. Luo Feng's mindset seemed to have been pushed to an extreme. Wei Wen wasn't sure if that was entirely good or bad. Still, there was nothing wrong with diligent practice. It would only serve to strengthen both of them, making it a clear win-win situation. Hard work is fine, but Wei Wen, could you give me some guidance? Luo Feng, who shared an excellent relationship with Wei Wen, got straight to the point without any polite preliminaries. No problem. Wei Wen smiled. This was precisely part of his plan. What do you want to learn? First, how to absorb more genetic energy like you do. Second, how to achieve micro-level movement, Luo Feng stated directly after a moment of silence. Wei Wen fell into thought upon hearing this. Teaching Luo Feng micro-level movement and helping him improve his strength as quickly as possible was part of Wei Wen's plan. So that wasn't a concern. The issue lay in enabling Luo Feng to absorb more genetic energy, which could only rely on the optimized 5 acupoints skyward practices. As far as many knew, the 5 acupoints skyward practices was the only genetic energy cultivation technique on the entire planet. After a brief silence, however, Wei Wen stopped hesitating. First, he knew Luo Feng well. If he couldn't trust Luo Feng, then there was no one on Earth worthy of his trust. Second, Luo Feng was his golden thigh and a primary source of his own growth. Teaching Luo Feng would greatly benefit him. Besides, the 5 acupoints origin method wasn't an entirely different cultivation technique. It was merely an optimized version of the 5 acupoints skyward practices. Even if it were accidentally exposed, he could simply claim his comprehension was exceptional and that he had perfected the method himself. Moreover, Luo Feng had been working for him, and as the boss, it was unreasonable to keep him empty-handed indefinitely. No problem. Let me first explain why I can absorb more genetic energy. It's because I optimized and improved the 5 acupoint skyward practices, Wei Wen clarified. After the optimization, even without the support of a guidance technique, it allows me to absorb more genetic energy. With a guidance technique, the absorption efficiency becomes even more exaggerated. As for the specific practice method, Wei Wen briefly explained the principles of the 5 acupoints origin method and gave a short demonstration. To be blunt, the optimization of the 5 acupoints skyward practices wasn't particularly profound. For instance, the standard method primarily channels genetic energy into the body through the 5 acupoints, making it impossible to nourish every cell comprehensively. In contrast, the 5 acupoints origin method allows cells throughout the body to independently absorb genetic energy. So that's how it is. Luo Feng's eyes lit up with sudden understanding. I never imagined genetic energy could be absorbed this way. Luo Feng quickly grasped the 5 acupoints origin method. After a brief attempt, he confirmed he could indeed absorb more genetic energy than before. Ding! Your friend Luo Feng is absorbing genetic energy. Your physical strength continues to improve. In truth, Wei Wen had another motive for teaching Luo Feng the 5 acupoints origin method, to potentially obtain a more advanced genetic energy cultivation method through system feedback. Unfortunately, after waiting a while, he heard no such prompt. This made Wei Wen realize that the so-called feedback couldn't repeatedly generate new high-level techniques, dashing some of his hopes for exploiting loopholes. Nonetheless, with Luo Feng understanding the 5 acupoints origin method, his ability to absorb more genetic energy was assured. This meant Luo Feng would grow stronger faster, and Wei Wen, in turn, would improve more rapidly through system feedback. As for micro-level movement, that's simpler. Having reaped the benefits, Wei Wen proceeded to explain micro-level movement to Luo Feng. Common sense dictates that practicing movement techniques requires a solid foundation, typically built over years of diligent effort. But you've already mastered the basics and can skillfully control your body's strength, so I won't elaborate on that. The difference between micro-level and basic movement is that micro-level represents more refined control over strength and the body, enabling the most precise dodges at the minimal cost. It allows you to evade all kinds of attacks as if calculated by a computer. The challenge in mastering micro-level movement is that even the slightest error in evasion can easily result in being hit by a monster. Under normal circumstances, it requires real combat to master. Of course, if you have mental power, there's an alternative path, Wei Wen pointed out. He wasn't wrong. Without life-and-death battles, mastering micro-level movement was indeed difficult. But why could Luo Feng master it? Because mental power can attach to objects, such as clothing, boots, or armor. Luo Feng could use his mental power to make fine adjustments to his movements, naturally enabling him to execute exquisite dodges with minimal motion. Of course, errors could still occur, depending on his control over mental power. However, Luo Feng possessed the greatest mental power amplitude in the world, a clear indication of his unparalleled talent as a spiritual master. His control over mental power was even more profound. Such immense mental power amplitude also reflected his extraordinary comprehension, which was why he could break through to micro-level and even perfected movement within just a few months. After listening to Wei Wen's guidance, Luo Feng fell into deep thought. As the name implies, movement techniques inherently involve combat. Mere meditation is insufficient. If Luo Feng wanted to comprehend it quickly, he would have to train even harder to reap the rewards later. Come, let's spar briefly at quasi-warrior level strength so you can experience what micro-level movement feels like, Wei Wen suggested, looking at Luo Feng. Okay, Luo Feng nodded. At his core, he was someone who refused to admit defeat and was brimming with fighting spirit. The two stood facing each other, 10 meters apart, without any weapons. Wei Wen, be careful. Seeing Wei Wen with his hands in his pockets and no intention of attacking first, Luo Feng stomped the ground and launched a punch toward Wei Wen. Even at quasi-warrior level strength, their speed was incredibly fast. In less than a second, Luo Feng closed the distance, his right fist whistling through the air as it struck hard at Wei Feng's abdomen. Wei Wen sidestepped slightly, effortlessly evading Luo Feng's attack. Seeing Wei Wen dodge so easily, Luo Feng held nothing back, unleashing a flurry of punches and kicks. Yet each time, Wei Wen moved casually, avoiding every one of Luo Feng's strikes with ease. Luo Feng could sense that Wei Wen's speed was roughly on par with his own, yet Wei Wen evaded his attacks with such nonchalance. He could feel Wei Wen's utter relaxation and control. So this is micro-level movement. Luo Feng couldn't help but look astonished. Only by sparring with Wei Wen personally did Luo Feng understand the prowess of micro-level movement. With equal strength, Wei Wen gave him the impression of being as unfathomable as an ancient well. Your movement skills are indeed proficient, but your control over power isn't yet refined enough. You're unable to manipulate strength on a more detailed level, Wei Wen explained simply. If your fist technique reached the same level as your movement, I probably wouldn't have it so easy. But as long as you persist, you'll reach my level sooner or later. If Wei Wen remembered correctly, shortly after Luo Feng entered the training camp and became Jiang Fang's disciple, his blade technique were looked down upon by Jiang Fang. This was because Luo Feng's mastery in blade techniques lagged far behind his movement technique, a fact evident from how easily Wei Wen could dodge his attacks. As he said this, Wei Wen felt a little strange. He never imagined that one day he would be able to speak such encouraging words to his own benefactor, the famous city Lord Luo. Of course, Luo Feng didn't see it that way. He took Wei Wen's words as genuine encouragement, and a determined look flashed across his face. All right, Wei Wen, something just occurred to me. Let's spar a bit. It seemed Luo Feng had been mulling over Wei Wen's earlier advice, his eyes lighting up with inspiration. Let's begin, Wei Wen replied casually. Luo Feng threw another punch, which Wei Wen easily evaded once more. However, Luo Feng was a spiritual master, possessing mental power. After this attack failed, his spiritual energy could generate an additional burst of force mid-action. Luo Feng's mental power acted upon the watch on his wrist, abruptly creating a new source of power. It was precisely this sudden thrust that allowed his fist to shift laterally by 5 centimeters. Your friend, Luo Feng, is practicing the mutated movement technique. Your comprehension of movement techniques continues to improve. Huh. Wei Wen suddenly felt as if he had been struck by Luo Feng's punch, but based on his micro-level prediction of movement techniques, Luo Feng's fist shouldn't have reached him. However, Wei Wen was also a spiritual master. Seeing Luo Feng's maneuver, he had a sudden realization, so that's it. Even if he makes a mistake, he can still rely on mental power to readjust. Moreover, this evasion method is no less effective than conventional techniques. It's even more unpredictable. Looks like I need to get serious. Wei Wen no longer kept his hands in his pockets. He began to carefully respond to Luo Feng's attacks, countering, blocking, and dodging as their sparring resumed in earnest. Luo Feng focused his spirit, rapidly calculating Wei Wen's assaults in his mind. He moved like an agile cat, constantly dodging and attacking, advancing, retreating, shifting left and right. For a time, the two seemed evenly matched, both displaying combat prowess at the quasi-warrior level. But Luo Feng hadn't truly reached the micro level. Sometimes, his calculated reactions weren't timely enough, leaving him open to being struck. By relying on my mental power, I can execute exquisite dodges and attacks with minimal movement, but miscalculations still happen, Luo Feng sighed inwardly. A warrior's physical fitness could be improved through training, but movement techniques required accumulated experience and comprehension of their subtleties. It wasn't a given that superior physical strength would translate to superior movement techniques. Luo Feng hadn't truly entered the micro level. He was relying on his mental power to simulate it. In contrast, Wei Wen had genuinely achieved it. After their exchange, Luo Feng felt mentally and physically drained. After all, the constant calculations and use of mental power had placed a significant strain on his consciousness. His talent and comprehension are terrifying. Wei Wen took a deep breath. Through their battle, he realized that Luo Feng had grasped the essence of the micro level in this short time and was already able to digest and apply it flexibly. At the very least, Wei Wen could see that Luo Feng had made significant progress in this session. Especially in controlling the newfound power of spiritual energy, his refinement had improved markedly. When it came to the precise control of mental power, Wei Wen was clearly inferior to Luo Feng. Sparring with Luo Feng, Wei Wen felt the pressure emanating from this genius. He truly lives up to being a prodigy who can break through to the micro level and even perfect movement techniques within a few months. His comprehension far surpasses mine. Fortunately, Wei Wen had his system, allowing him to catch up and excel. Boom, boom, boom. The two were engaged in an intense match, the sounds of their clash echoing throughout the Martial Club Hall. "Who's in there?" Jiang Nian, who had just stepped out of the Martial Club Hall, walked straight to the 4th floor and asked Uncle Lai, who was guarding the door. Wei Wen and Luo Feng. "They've been sparring inside for over an hour," Uncle Lai replied with a smile. "Luo Feng can spar with Wei Wen." Jiang Nian's eyes instantly lit up. It seemed the unexpected surprises at the Yin district schools weren't limited to Wei Wen. Luo Feng was another one. If not for a whim today, he would have missed this. Excited, Jiang Nian walked up to the 4th floor training hall and stood at the entrance, observing Wei Wen and Luo Feng as they exchanged moves and tested each other's skills. Although the techniques they used were clearly basic moves at a glance, they carried novel variations. They seemed infused with vitality in their agility, appearing unpredictable yet flowing seamlessly. Could he have reached the micro level? Jiang Nian's eyes sparkled with realization. His guess wasn't wrong. Although Luo Feng hadn't truly attained the micro level by relying on his mental power, he had achieved a mutated micro level. Instructor. Luo Feng, who was facing the door, stopped when he noticed Jiang Nian standing there. Wei Wen also ended their session. "Luo Feng, you can spar with Wei Wen. It seems you've made great progress. Have you cultivated your genetic energy and micro-level movement techniques?" Jiang Nian asked eagerly. "I haven't mastered micro-level movement techniques, but I have cultivated my genetic energy." Luo Feng replied without concealment. Luo Feng believed it was beneficial to appropriately reveal some of his talents. Come, let's go to the punching power tester. Show me how much punching strength you have now," Jiang Nian said, his eyes gleaming. Soon, Luo Feng's assessment results were in punching strength. 3,333 kg speed, 59 m/s nerve response test, intermediate warrior level, excellent, advanced warrior level, pass. Wei Wen, practice on your own for now. I'm taking Luo Feng to the headquarters as well," Jiang Nian said, glancing at Wei Wen, who stood to the side. "Luo Feng's future is what matters. Don't worry about me," Wei Wen replied lightly. Wei Wen was content to be a salty fish. If Luo Feng hadn't persistently pulled him into sparring, he would have preferred to go back and lie down. After all, his main purpose in coming to the Extreme Martial Club Hall today was to strengthen Luo Feng. The objective had been achieved, and he could now return home and wait for the rewards. Later, Jiang Nian, brimming with pleasant surprise, took Luo Feng to the Extreme Martial Club headquarters in Jiangnan Base City. Luo Feng agreed to join the Extreme Martial Club ahead of schedule. Under the witness of Xue Tao, he signed a lucrative contract and officially became a member in advance. However, recalling Wei Wen's previous situation, Jiang Nian suggested that Luo Feng also be granted warrior status ahead of time. Xue Tao felt that Luo Feng's strength was more than sufficient to pass the actual combat assessment. Moreover, since Luo Feng had already joined the Extreme Martial Club in advance, it wasn't an exaggeration to recognize him as a warrior. He immediately applied for warrior status for Luo Feng using his own authority. Time flew by, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, Wei Wen and Luo Feng moved into Minju community with full honors. After Luo Feng and his family settled into the villa, one of his dreams was fulfilled. But he also understood that everything he had now was due to his talent and value. Compared to Wei Wen, however, he still felt inadequate and knew he needed to work even harder. So, whenever he had time, Luo Feng sought out Wei Wen to hone his movement techniques. Helping Luo Feng was also helping himself, so Wei Wen never refused. Luo Feng possessed high comprehension. Coupled with Wei Wen's guidance and their sparring sessions, his progress was much faster than if he had trained behind closed doors. After all, self-training could lead one down the wrong path, and even the right path could present bottlenecks. Especially in their near-limit training sessions, only by truly challenging his physical limits could Luo Feng understand the boundaries of his evasion capabilities. Thus, the gains from these 3 days of practice were likely equivalent to a month's progress in the novel. His movement techniques had directly entered the micro level, albeit the mutated kind. Ding! Your bound friend Luo Feng is cultivating movement techniques and has reached the mutated micro level. Your comprehension of movement techniques continues to improve. Congratulations, you have reached the mutated perfect level. When Wei Wen woke up the next day and saw this notification, he was instantly thrilled. This guy. Judging by the timestamp, it's around 3 a.m. He truly is the king of grinding, but what on earth is this mutated perfect level? Wei Wen's mouth twitched involuntarily. Just as Wei Wen was feeling puzzled, a profound understanding of the mutant perfect level surfaced in his mind, striking him like a sudden epiphany. If micro-level movement techniques use minimal motion to evade attacks, achieving high efficiency, then the perfect level is about controlling the surrounding environment and utilizing every element within it. It involves using life forms, stones, buildings, anything and everything to achieve a state of perfect integration with one's surroundings. This allows a warrior to employ all things to execute the most precise dodges. This is the perfect level of movement. The mutant perfect level, however, like the one Luo Feng attained, requires the assistance of mental power. When Luo Feng first stepped into the realm of perfect body movement, it was precisely this mutant variant. As Luo Feng himself understood it, ordinary warriors lack the mental power to perceive their environment in detail. In contrast, Luo Feng relied on his mental power, continuously spreading it over a wide area to detect everything around him. Furthermore, at that critical life-or-death moment, his mental power soared to its peak, and the speed of his mind's calculations reached an incredible level, even if that state only lasted for a brief 1.2 seconds the first time. A true, natural perfect level doesn't actually require such intense mental calculation, nor is it as fleeting as Luo Feng's initial experience. Let me try to understand what this mutant micro-level truly means, Wei Wen murmured after a moment of silence. He got dressed and stood up, ready to test the mutant perfect level movement technique. With a thought, a box of steel balls appeared in his hand. He casually grabbed a handful and tossed them into the air. As the steel balls began to fall, Wei Wen started to dodge, moving at a speed lower than their descent. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share infinite novel audio. Weaving left and right through the dense shower of balls, his figure, guided by his mental power, could sense everything around him. He moved as smoothly and effortlessly as the wind, easily evading the steel balls. On the rare occasion a ball was truly unavoidable, Wei Wen would use his mental power to forcibly alter its trajectory, dodging the attack with ease. So this is the mutant perfect level, Wei Wen concluded with a slight shake of his head. Although it's not the genuine article, I don't need to worry. After all, Luo Feng's movement skills will continue to improve in the future. Rumor has it he's even become a warrior ahead of schedule. Once he can purchase secret manuals, he'll inevitably learn the true micro-level and perfection-level techniques. Speaking of our status as warriors, the notification should have come through last night, right? Wei Wen used his mental power to collect the scattered steel balls, then turned to the keyboard and entered a web address. Extreme Hall. There are special internal networks accessible only to those with specific identities. For instance, only warriors of the Extreme Martial Club can access its internal network, the Extreme Hall, beep. After entering the address, Wei Wen verified his fingerprint. A massive screen spanning 200 inches was projected onto a wall, immediately displaying the Extreme Martial Club internal network, the Extreme Hall. Upon entering, Wei Wen's personal page appeared first. At the top was his photo, followed by an information table: name, Wei Wen, gender, male, address, Jiangnan Base City, warrior ID, 426,123,205,608,010,002 rank, warrior level, junior, contribution points, 0 points, currency balance, 10 billion Chinese dollars. The profile page was simple, with nothing particularly noteworthy. In truth, Wei Wen was not a junior warrior level combatant, but at least a senior general level. His surface rating was just a formality. The internal network's warrior rating primarily depends on submitting proof of hunted monsters for assessment. Just as ordinary quasi-warriors must pass a combat test to officially become warriors, Wei Wen and Luo Feng's early promotions were exceptions. In short, for both quasi-warriors and warriors, rank increases must be proven through actual combat. Wei Wen's eyes were immediately drawn to a red button, reminding him he had unread messages. Unable to stand the notification dot due to his slight obsessive compulsiveness, he promptly clicked it, opening his inbox to find 2 emails. Whoosh, the first email contained a video. I am President Xu's assistant. The president has guaranteed that if you purchase any secret manual, as long as the price does not exceed 10 billion, the internal network will directly reimburse the cost. Should the price exceed 10 billion, Mr. Wei Wen, you will need to cover the difference yourself. Combined with your 10 billion in startup capital, your spending limit is effectively 20 billion. A genius like you, Mr. Wei Wen, is undoubtedly worth this level of investment. The Extreme Martial Club has been very good to me. Wei Wen remarked. He then clicked on the second email, which also contained a video. It served as a welcome to the Extreme Martial Club and an explanation of the Extreme Hall internal network. Inside, one can purchase weapons, secret manuals, genetic potions, and other treasures, virtually anything, provided one has sufficient funds. With enough contribution points, members can even enjoy a half-price discount. Contribution points can be obtained in 2 ways. First, by hunting monsters and selling the materials to the Extreme Martial Club for corresponding points. Second, through direct monetary donations. Donating felt like a significant loss compared to selling monster materials, but it underscored the principle that while money isn't everything, it's often indispensable. Contribution points, a half-price discount, Wei Wen mused silently. Currently, his contribution points were naturally 0. However, for this first-time use of the dojo's free secret manual quota, he could enjoy the half-price benefit. Wei Wen focused his attention on the secret manuals section and clicked on the option. A vast array of manuals appeared before his eyes, with prices ranging from exorbitant to affordable. World Annihilation category, marksmanship rating, research level price, 100 billion Chinese dollars full price, 50 billion Chinese dollars half price requirement, 4-star contribution rating. World Annihilation wasn't suitable for Wei Wen, or rather, it wasn't suitable for Luo Feng. Since Wei Wen's support was aimed at Luo Feng, any manual he chose would have to be the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Using a manual without purchasing it was fraught with peril. Doing so would invite joint pursuit by the Extreme Martial Club, the Thunder Dojo, the HR Alliance, and the government military. A single misstep could cost him his life. 9-stage Thunderblade category, blade technique rating, research level price, 100 billion Chinese dollars full price, 50 billion Chinese dollars half price requirement, 4-star contribution rating. I knew this manual would be extremely expensive. It almost makes me want to sell it off. Wei Wen shook his head slightly. The price was staggering, and he could only afford it thanks to Luo Feng's circumstances. Fortunately, these supremely expensive manuals could be purchased in separate volumes. The first 5 stages of the 9-stage Thunderblade were priced at 20 billion Chinese dollars, full price, or 10 billion Chinese dollars, half price, requirement. 3-star contribution rating. The contribution rating system was roughly divided into stars. 1 point is 1 star, 10 points are 2 stars, 100 million points are 3 stars, over 1 billion points are 4 stars, and 5 billion points is the legendary 5-star rating. Getting the half price for the complete 9-stage Thunderblade required a 4-star rating, which was far beyond his current means. Please confirm your purchase. To acquire the first 5 stages of the 9-stage Thunderblade, the cost is 20 billion Chinese dollars, or an equivalent amount from your free manual quota. You are eligible for the half-price discount. Wei Wen's free quota was just sufficient, so he directly chose to purchase the first 5 stages of the 9-stage Thunderblade. This peerless blade technique, mastered by the world's second strongest warrior, Thunder God, is divided into 9 stages. Its most marvelous aspect is the so-called force amplitude technique. For instance, the first level can unleash 2 superimposed waves of hidden force. The first wave is 100% of one's strength, and the second is 40%, resulting in a total power amplitude of 1.4 times. By the 9th level, a total of 10 force waves are superimposed, achieving a terrifying power amplitude of 7 times. But Wei Wen knew all too well that the force exertion method of the 9-stage Thunderblade was flawed or incomplete. This inherent defect made the practice far more difficult. For example, ordinary pinnacle apprentice-level warriors from the fallen Mo Lan star could generally achieve a force amplitude of about 10 times using perfectly cultivated methods. The talents of Hong and Thunder God were exceptionally high, evident from their comprehension at the planetary level. They were far beyond the ordinary standards of Mo Lan star. Yet, even after decades of refinement at the planetary level, their maximum force amplitude was only 7 times. For apprentice-level warriors on Mo Lan star, those less talented than Hong and Thunder God can generally achieve a force multiplier of around 10. Even the most highly talented individuals typically only reach about 7 times at the planetary level. This comparison clearly reveals a deficiency in their force exertion methods, which hinders their training progress. If one practices a perfect force exertion method, their training speed would undoubtedly be faster. It's a pity that even though Wei Wen is aware of his shortcomings in this area, he currently has no good solution. He can only hope the system proves more powerful this time. Luo Feng's warrior status should be confirmed tonight, so I'll wait for now, Wei Wen thought to himself. Last time, after Luo Feng obtained the 5 acupoints skyward practices, Wei Wen received the optimized version through his binding and feedback mechanism. If Luo Feng purchases the 9-stage Thunder Blade this time, then Wei Wen might obtain the optimized version, which could potentially be a perfect force exertion method. He obviously needed Luo Feng to work for him this time. Of course, as the boss, Wei Wen had no intention of making Luo Feng work for free. Under appropriate circumstances, he would also assist Luo Feng. After all, helping Luo Feng was ultimately helping himself. As for weapons, Wei Wen currently couldn't enjoy a half-price discount, so he didn't plan to buy them directly. He intended to let Luo Feng try purchasing them, or have someone else do it on his behalf, at the headquarters building of the Extreme Martial Club in Jiangnan Base City. Inside the president's office, President Xue Ying, dressed in a white training uniform, sat behind a large desk. Standing before him were the 3 top supervisors of the main dojo. The gathering of these 4 key figures from the Jiangnan Base City headquarters was clearly no minor matter. Here is all the information we have gathered so far on Wei Wen and Luo Feng. Take a look and tell me your thoughts. Xue Ying handed over 3 thick documents. The 3 supervisors took the files and quickly skimmed through them. Zhuge Tao was primarily responsible for reviewing Luo Feng's information. Wei Wen and Luo Feng would be utterly surprised if they knew their information was here. Nearly every verifiable detail of their lives since childhood was recorded. demonstrating the immense reach of the extreme martial club hall. With today's technology, investigating an ordinary person was almost effortless. It could be said that within 3 days, the Extreme Martial Club Hall had nearly completed their dossiers. As they learned more about Wei Wen and Luo Feng, their images became increasingly vivid in the minds of the 4 officials. This Wei Wen, something feels off, Zhu Tao secretly frowned. Luo Feng's current achievements could be attributed to his long-term, unremitting efforts, coupled with some innate talent and comprehension. As for Wei Wen, his past performance had always been mediocre in terms of talent and comprehension. He had even become somewhat of a slacker later on. Yet, he had actually comprehended the micro-level movement technique. They all felt something was amiss, but couldn't pinpoint any other explanation. It could only be said that Wei Wen's comprehension was incredible, or that he had been hiding his abilities all these years. But regardless, Wei Wen's micro-level movement technique and genetic talent were undeniable facts. Based on this, they had confirmed that Wei Wen was a peerless genius. What are your thoughts on recommending them both to enter the headquarters basic training camp? Xue Zhengyang leaned back in his chair and fixed his gaze on the 3 supervisors. After hearing Xue Zhengyang's words, the 3 supervisors briefly exchanged glances, already having an answer in their hearts. Wei Wen and Luo Feng are both young, possessing both comprehension and talent. They are undoubtedly rare geniuses in our Jiangnan-based city. President, I agree with your opinion. We can recommend Wei Wen and Luo Feng to our superiors for entry into the headquarters basic training camp. The 3 supervisors expressed their agreement one after another. After listening to them, Xue Zhengyang nodded with satisfaction. What about recommending Wei Wen for the elite training camp? Xue Zhengyang suddenly proposed. The 3 supervisors were stunned. They all knew that the 10 global slots for this year's elite training camp had already been filled. Furthermore, it was rumored that China had managed to secure 1 additional quota through negotiations. Logically, even if there were quotas, they wouldn't necessarily be allocated to China's Jiangnan-based city. Taking a step back, even if they were fortunate enough to get the quota, candidates still had to pass the assessment. Moreover, with this extra quota, the assessment difficulty would be correspondingly increased. Specifically, one would need to pass the B-grade assessment within the training camp. The difficulty of the B-grade assessment. Even Luo Feng, who exerted 2.8 times his strength using the 3rd level of the 9-stage Thunder Blade and had perfected his movement technique, nearly failed. If not for a sudden breakthrough and his comprehension of another application of the 9-stage Thunder Blade, Luo Feng might not have entered the elite training camp. The 3 supervisors, being senior executives, were well aware of the B-grade assessment's difficulty and didn't believe Wei Wen could pass it within 2 months. Thus, they responded to Xue Zhengyang's proposal with silence. After a brief pause, however, they began to voice their opinions. Agree. 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 This time, the 3 supervisors said little, offering only these 2 simple words. They weren't truly optimistic about Wei Wen's chances of passing the B-grade assessment, but wanted to give Xue Zhengyang face. After all, even if they submitted Wei Wen's application for the elite training camp, headquarters might not approve it. In fact, Xue Zhengyang shared the same thought, but there was no harm in trying. What if they succeeded? I know what you're thinking. I plan to consult my friends for their opinions before making a decision. Xue Zhengyang fell silent for a moment, then stood up from his chair. In the spacious president's office, Xue Zhengyang initiated a holographic video call. The person on the other end was a middle-aged man with a square face, wearing a gray robe. Old Xue, what brings you to call me today? The middle-aged man said with a smile. Old Yang, I'm contacting you on serious business. We've discovered 2 geniuses in Jiangnan-based city and have already invited them to join the Extreme Martial Club in advance, Xue Zhengyang said with a serious expression. Regarding their treatment, we want them to join the headquarters basic training camp. You are an instructor at the training camp. I'll send you their information and some surveillance footage. Please give me your suggestions, geniuses that you all take seriously. Seeing Xue Zhengyang's solemn expression, Yang Hui also became serious and carefully checked the email he had just received. Old Zhu, given our relationship, I'll be straightforward. It's absolutely fine for them to join the headquarters basic training camp. Yang Hui said, looking somewhat troubled. But you recommended Wei Wen for the headquarters elite training camp. I'm afraid your idea is somewhat unrealistic. Under normal circumstances, joining the elite training camp only requires passing the A-grade assessment. But if you want an extra quota, you must demonstrate extraordinary talent. Otherwise, why would you get the additional spot? To put it simply, the assessment difficulty increases. That's the B-grade assessment. The B-grade assessment has little to do with genetic talent. It primarily tests performance in areas like comprehension, strength exertion, movement technique, and combat experience. Strength exertion. Wei Wen might not even have started learning it yet. How far could he progress in 2 months? His movement technique must at least reach the micro level, and even a perfect level movement technique would give him a chance. His current level, having just entered micro level, isn't sufficient. As for combat experience, that's even more of a problem. After all, he has never fought a monster. All 3 aspects are indispensable. How could he pass the B-grade assessment? Is there really no hope? Xu Zhengyang asked regretfully. It's not completely hopeless. Yang Hui fell silent for a moment, as if thinking of something. I also read Wei Wen's information just now. He wasted several years fooling around. If he suddenly comprehended the micro-level movement technique when he decided to train seriously, it means his comprehension is far greater than we imagined. If this speculation holds true, I believe he could grow rapidly enough to pass the B-grade assessment within 2 months. Didn't you arrange for him to become a warrior in advance and allow him to purchase the Force Exertion Secret Manual? If you insist on recommending Wei Wen, I advise you to test his strength exertion and movement technique again in 1 month. If he can truly make significant progress within that month, you will undoubtedly be more confident when you apply again. Anyway, based on Wei Wen's current performance, he has no hope of joining the elite training camp. 1 month, Xu Zhengyang nodded. Thank you for your suggestion, Old Yang. I will wait until August to test Wei Wen's strength. If he can truly show improvement within a month, we will strive to recommend him for the elite training camp. Around midnight, Minju Community, a staff member from the Extreme Martial Club Hall arrived at Wei Wen's villa, carrying a suitcase. Mr. Wei Wen, these are the first 5 stages of the 9-stage Thunder Blade technique you purchased. You can open it directly with your fingerprint, the staff member said respectfully, handing over the suitcase. Wei Wen casually took it and lightly pressed his finger against the top. Beep. Fingerprint verification passed. After opening the suitcase, Wei Wen quickly confirmed its contents. A single book about 5 centimeters thick and 5 CDs, 9-stage Thunder Blade. Seeing the title on the secret manual, Wei Wen immediately closed the suitcase. Please sign here. The Extreme Martial Club Hall staff member said with a smile, though his eyes held a trace of shock. The first 5 stages of the 9-stage Thunder Blade cost half price, which is still 5 billion Huazia coins. How can a new warrior afford this? After Wei Wen signed, the staff member reminded him of the taboos associated with the manual. Simply put, the copyright belonged to the Thunder God. Individuals who purchased the manual only had the right to use it personally. They were forbidden from copying, reselling, or teaching it privately. For example, Wei Wen's purchase of the 9-stage Thunder Blade would be recorded in the joint databases of the Extreme Martial Club Hall, HR Alliance, the Thunder Dojo, and other major organizations. If someone like Luo Feng, who hadn't purchased the manual, was caught practicing or using the 9-stage Thunder Blade, he would be arrested. Furthermore, having someone else purchase it on your behalf was not allowed, as the database would only record the proxy buyer's information. However, this copyright restriction didn't apply to weapons and equipment, which Wei Wen planned to have others purchase for him. Just this manual and 5 CDs, and it sells for 10 billion, Wei Wen mused with a smile. Who knows how many people have bought the Thunder God's 9-stage Thunder Blade? It's easy to imagine how incredibly wealthy he must be. Creating secret manuals is clearly the most profitable venture. If I'm ever short on money in the future, maybe I can make some by selling my own techniques. But with Luo Feng working for me, money shouldn't be an issue. Besides, for the true powerhouses on Earth, money has largely lost its meaning. Many of the things I desire can't be bought with currency. In the second-floor training hall, Wei Wen opened the secret manual and skimmed through it. The 9-stage Thunderblade was divided into 3 parts: the core blade technique, along with supporting movement and cultivation methods. The blade technique focused on amplifying explosive power, potentially reaching up to 7 times the user's base strength. The accompanying movement technique, flickering light, was also excellent. It would aid Luo Feng in comprehending movement arts and could serve as a reference for Wei Wen himself. The cultivation method, 9-volume manual, was likely the most powerful guidance technique on Earth, allowing for highly efficient absorption of genetic energy. This was also the reason why the Thunder God, the creator of the 9-stage Thunderblade, possessed the strongest foundational physique on the planet. Let's try practicing this blade technique first. Standing in the training hall, Wei Wen began swinging an ordinary blade repeatedly according to the manual's instructions. The reason the 9-stage Thunderblade could exceed conventional power limits lay in a unique method of force application. For instance, when an ordinary warrior swung a blade with all their might, they typically exerted 100% of their body's strength. However, a practitioner of the 9-stage Thunderblade would only use 70% of their power in the initial swing. At the precise moment of the strike, they would strive to generate a second wave of force from within their body. Thus, the two forces, each 70% of their strength, would superimpose, resulting in a 1.4-fold explosion of power. Wei Wen swung his blade hundreds of times, repeatedly attempting to add a second burst of hidden force immediately after the first, but he consistently failed. A blade swing was over in an instant. Trying to unleash an initial force, and then simultaneously generate another internal burst within that fleeting moment, was something most people couldn't achieve. Even Luo Feng had practiced for nearly a month in the original timeline before succeeding. It seems I can only wait patiently for Luo Feng, Wei Wen thought to himself. At the same time, Luo Feng's warrior status was finalized. Just as in the original story, he chose to purchase and study the first 3 stages of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Your bound companion, Luo Feng, has purchased the first 3 stages of 9-stage Thunderblade. You have obtained the optimized version of the first 3 stages of 9-stage Thunderblade in the second-floor training hall. Wei Wen, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes in surprise. A stream of information about the optimized 9-stage Thunderblade had suddenly appeared in his mind. I've seen the original 9-stage Thunderblade created by the Thunder God and found it confusing from the start, Wei Wen reflected. But now, with this optimized version, my training speed should increase significantly. Although my current innate talent might not be exceptional, my progress with the 9-stage Thunderblade might even surpass Luo Feng's. The original 9-stage Thunderblade was a tedious technique, relying primarily on the principle of practice, makes perfect, repetition, until the essence revealed itself through sheer familiarity. It involved endlessly honing the skill of force application and power control to achieve the effect of multiple power bursts. In truth, for someone like the Thunder God, who was essentially fumbling in the dark to create his own power-generating technique, his self-created method was naturally incomparable to the optimized 9-stage Thunderblade. Furthermore, an individual's wisdom is ultimately limited, which is also why the original 9-stage Thunderblade had its flaws. The optimized version had rectified the issue of unsynchronized defensive amplitude and was fundamentally more advanced than the Thunder God's creation. Simply recalling this optimized force application method, Wei Wen immediately sensed the difference. At the very least, the practice process had become much more straightforward. Wei Wen had practiced the original 9-stage Thunderblade for several hours earlier without any progress. But now, merely contemplating this optimized 9-stage Thunderblade, his ability to control his power was rapidly improving. The speed of this progress shocked even him. Wei Wen pondered the principles of the 9-stage Thunderblade, constantly adjusting the force, speed, and angle of his swings as he began to slowly grasp the first layer's force application. As time passed, his expression shifted, sometimes frowning, sometimes brightening with understanding, sometimes silently adjusting his strength. While Wei Wen was engrossed in practicing the optimized 9-stage Thunderblade, he received a call from Xue Ying. "President Xue is calling me at this hour. I wonder what's going on." Wei Wen wondered as he answered the phone. "Wei Wen, your warrior status has been processed. You should have received the startup capital and your free secret manual quota by now," Xue Ying said cheerfully. "The fact that I received far more startup capital and free manual credits than an ordinary warrior is all thanks to your guidance, President," Wei Wen replied with a smile. "Haha, don't worry about such a small amount," Xue Ying said lightly. "The manuals are half price now." "I assume you've already made your selection." "I've already bought one," Wei Wen confirmed. "Oh," Xue Ying was slightly surprised. "Which manual did you choose?" In Xue Ying's view, passing the B-level assessment was no easy feat. If new warriors bought high-level manuals like World Annihilation or 9-Stage Thunderblade, they often focused only on the ultimate power described, failing to see the terrifying difficulty involved in practicing them. They might not make any progress, even after a month. Therefore, he believed Wei Wen should have chosen something simpler and easier to learn. Perhaps the ceiling of such a manual wasn't as high, but it would allow for faster improvement in a short period. After all, he planned to apply for a spot for Wei Wen in the elite training camp. If successful, the potential achievements would be significant. "The 9-stage Thunder Blade," Wei Wen replied. Xue Ying's mouth twitched. His worst fear had been realized. "Did you use up your entire free manual quota on it?" "If you still had any free credits left, I'd recommend you buy a simpler manual." "The quota is gone," Wei Wen shook his head slightly. "I bought the first 5 stages. "Hey," Xue Ying let out a heavy sigh. "If I had known, I would have warned you earlier." "Now, I can only hope your comprehension is as strong as I believe it to be, and that you can improve rapidly within this month. Are you confident you can reach the first, or even the second, stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade within a month?" He knew from Wei Wen's ability to grasp micro-level movements in a short time before the Quasi-Warrior exam that his comprehension was terrifying. But the difficulty of the 9-stage Thunderblade manual was equally terrifying. Many warriors might never even step into the first stage in their entire lives. For Wei Wen to have any hope of securing a spot in the elite training camp, he had to at least reach the first stage within this month. However, Wei Wen understood his own innate talent better than anyone. Since his cultivation, talent, and comprehension weren't sufficient, he usually had to rely on the system's feedback. Yet, Wei Wen firmly believed that as Luo Feng grew step by step and gained opportunities, he too would be able to enhance his own talent and comprehension through the feedback. "It wouldn't be too late for him to work hard then. I've just started practicing the 9-stage Thunder Blade," Wei Wen said after a moment of silence. "I don't find it too difficult. Reaching the first stage within a month shouldn't be a problem." Firstly, according to his knowledge, it would take Luo Feng over a month to reach the first stage after purchasing the manual. Following the system's feedback rules, Wei Wen could reach at least the second stage in that time, making the first stage easily achievable within a month. Secondly, after the system optimized the 9-stage Thunder Blade manual, the correct method of exerting force would be easier to practice, significantly reducing the difficulty. Even if Wei Wen didn't teach Luo Feng the optimized version and didn't rely on system feedback, he was still confident he could complete the first stage in over a month. If he did teach Luo Feng, accelerating his progress, wouldn't the system's feedback be even more exaggerated? If Wei Wen really went all out, reaching the first stage in a month would be trivial. He could even reach the optimized third stage directly. "You seem quite confident. I truly hope you possess such potential," Xue Ying said, a glint of expectation in his eyes. "Also, you've officially joined the headquarters training camp and will report there at the end of August. Have you thought about how you'll improve yourself during this time? Work hard and train diligently, Wei Wen said seriously, stating the obvious. Hard training is crucial for any warrior, but actual combat experience is equally important, Xue Zhengyang said after a thoughtful pause. You were recommended early by our hall and became a warrior without taking the practical combat assessment. However, this also means you missed a valuable opportunity to temper your will. Xue Zhengyang's demeanor shifted, and a unique, formidable aura emanated from him. As a warrior who had emerged from mountains of corpses and seas of blood, his willpower was indeed something Wei Wen couldn't match. Even though it was just a three-dimensional projection, Wei Wen instantly felt the invisible pressure radiating from Xue Zhengyang. No wonder in the virtual universe, the pressure from an immortal can render all star-level geniuses powerless to resist, Wei Wen thought, inwardly shocked. A clear realization dawned on Wei Wen. Although the lie-flat system had helped him and made him seem like a genius to outsiders, he had always lacked real combat experience and tempering. A warrior who hasn't experienced true combat, what kind of warrior is that? Even after entering the training camp, he would have to venture out to hunt monsters periodically. It was best to adapt to fighting monsters as soon as possible. Your current talent isn't bad, but you are a new warrior after all. You can't compare to those geniuses who have undergone long-term training and cultivation. I'm afraid it might be difficult for you to adapt to the environment there initially, Xue Zhengyang continued. So before you go to the training camp, I plan to arrange for an elite warrior team to take you outside the base city to gain some actual combat experience. No problem, Wei Wen agreed without hesitation after a moment's thought. The warrior team should return the day after tomorrow. Prepare yourself in advance. The day after tomorrow, you and the warrior team will set off for the wilderness area for training, you and Luo Feng. With your talents, you both have a very solid chance of at least joining the basic training camp, Xue Zhengyang explained. With hard work and your innate talent, you can even try for a spot in the elite training camp. Wei Wen suddenly smiled when he heard Luo Feng was going too. The faster Luo Feng grew, the better it was for Wei Wen. In Xue Zhengyang's eyes, Luo Feng might only be capable of joining the basic training camp. But if both he and Luo Feng ended up in the elite training camp together, Wei Wen wondered if Xue Zhengyang would be utterly confused. On the other side, Luo Feng also received a call from Zhuge Tao, informing him that he would be entering the headquarters training camp. However, he wasn't particularly happy about it. Thinking carefully about why Luo Feng didn't want to reveal his identity as a spiritual master, one could understand his reluctance. Luo Feng didn't want unnecessary trouble. Once it was revealed that he was a spiritual master, his peaceful life would be over. Especially after just becoming a warrior, he had read many posts on the Extreme Martial Forum and concluded that it was best not to reveal the secrets of a spiritual master. Because every organization and force would go crazy trying to snatch up spiritual masters, as they were considered trump cards. Each spiritual master played a significant role, enough to trigger fierce competition among various forces and powerful individuals. He would be thrust into the spotlight. While there might be privileges, his life as an ordinary warrior would be gone. Of course, Luo Feng had already joined the Extreme Martial Club, but once his identity was revealed, he would become a key cultivation target. He would be sent to the global headquarters and receive excellent training, but he would lose his current quiet life and wouldn't be able to stay with his family often. However, when he thought about why when entering the headquarters training camp and progressing faster, Luo Feng also felt the desire to go. You seem a little troubled. Do you have any questions? Zhuge Tao's projection looked at Luo Feng. After entering the training camp, when can I come back? Luo Feng asked directly. There are holidays in January and February every year when you can return to your hometown, Zhuge Tao explained simply. Of course, if you meet the graduation standards early in the next few years, you'll naturally graduate from the training camp and return home sooner. Hearing that he could return, Luo Feng felt somewhat relieved. After ending the call, Luo Feng began practicing the 9-stage Thunderblade. Unfortunately, he hadn't even mastered the first stage yet. The 9-stage Thunderblade is indeed an ultimate manual, but it's really difficult to practice. Even now, I still can't generate that extra burst of dark energy in an instant, Luo Feng sighed inwardly. It's hard to imagine the later levels. How exactly does one unleash the dark energy for the final, 9th layer Thunder Blade? Luo Feng pondered the blade technique deeply, but after thinking hard for a long time, he couldn't come up with a good solution. So, Luo Feng thought of Wei Wen. He heard that Wei Wen had also purchased the 9-stage Thunder Blade. He wanted to see if Wei Wen had succeeded in cultivating it. After all, Wei Wen seemed to have higher comprehension than him. Why not ask Wei Wen for advice? He could also find out Wei Wen's thoughts on joining the training camp. When Luo Feng found Wei Wen, the latter was practicing his swordsmanship in the second-floor martial club training hall. Luo Feng watched a few of Wei Wen's seemingly casual sword swings and began to observe them intently, trying to comprehend their essence. Wei Wen's random movements actually shared many similarities with the 9-stage Thunder Blade. It feels like the 9-stage Thunder Blade, yet it's not quite the same system, Luo Feng couldn't help but muse. As time passed, something he hadn't noticed before began to dawn on him. The longer he watched, the more he perceived the subtleties of this optimized version of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Luo Feng became completely engrossed in Wei Wen's blade techniques. Compared to his previous attempts to glean insights from watching the 9-stage Thunder Blade, he now strove diligently to identify the differences and underlying patterns. For a moment, all his previous thoughts on the 9-stage Thunder Blade flashed through his mind, and he began to deduce and analyze them anew. Your friend, Luo Feng, is comprehending the optimized version of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Your understanding of the optimized 9-stage Thunder Blade continues to improve. This is terrifying. Luo Feng couldn't conceal the shock in his eyes. Absolutely terrifying. Wei Wen's movements resemble the 9-stage Thunder Blade, yet they aren't identical. Even without having fully learned the 9-stage Thunder Blade myself, I can tell this version's power is clearly superior. Though Luo Feng had only grasped a fraction of it, he was deeply amazed by this superficial understanding. When Wei Wen turned around, he found Luo Feng standing motionless on the spot. Luo Feng said nothing, clearly still immersed in the mysteries of the optimized 9-stage Thunder Blade that Wei Wen had just demonstrated. Though his body remained still, Luo Feng's mind was racing, constantly analyzing and evolving the blade technique he had witnessed. Luo Feng's comprehension was currently higher than Wei Wen's. For Wei Wen, observing Luo Feng's grasp of the optimized 9-stage Thunder Blade was like witnessing an epiphany. Wei Wen, having finished his practice and noted the system's notification, spotted Luo Feng and couldn't help but shake his head speechlessly. He had merely been swinging his blade casually, yet Luo Feng seemed to have fallen into a unique state of enlightenment. He couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy for Luo Feng's comprehension, which far surpassed his own. After all, the further one advanced in cultivation, the more critical comprehension became. Take concepts like the domain or the laws of origin, for example. No matter how simplified the optimized secret techniques were, with Wei Wen's level of comprehension, he might not be able to learn them in a lifetime. Consider prodigies like Luo Feng or the Golden Horned Beast, who possessed immense innate talent and vast stores of inherited memories filled with secret techniques tailored for them. But before reaching the universe level, hadn't they also failed to comprehend the domain? Wei Wen's comprehension was clearly inferior to that of the Golden Horned Beast and Luo Feng. Even with simpler secret methods, it was difficult for him to cultivate them quickly. Furthermore, figures like Hong and Lei Shen, who could comprehend the domain at the planetary level, were no slouches in terms of comprehension either. But without the corresponding talent and bloodline, achieving greatness was still challenging. To quote Babata's original words, judging by the growth efficiency of a 9th-level bloodline, if not facing life-or-death threats, reaching the peak of the star level within one lifetime was the norm under ordinary circumstances. and the golden horned beast. Reaching adulthood meant the peak of the World Master level, far surpassing even the strongest first-class World Master level bloodlines among humans. From this perspective, both talent and comprehension were indispensable on both these fronts. Wei Wen currently held no advantage. Even with a system that lets me lie flat and advance, my talent and comprehension are still lacking. Wei Wen shook his head slightly. I wonder when my talent and comprehension will surpass Luo Feng's. Of course, regardless of his innate talent, his current cultivation speed was definitely faster than Luo Feng's. For now, at least, he didn't need to worry too much about issues of talent and comprehension. Even if his talent and comprehension were poor, as long as he could grow rapidly for the time being, that was enough. Once he grew stronger and entered the vast, mysterious universe, there would be plenty of ways to enhance his talent and comprehension. Wei Wen, what's going on with your blade technique? Luo Feng asked, looking astonished. It looks like the 9-stage Thunder Blade, but it also feels different. The 9-stage Thunder Blade. I'm quite gifted, so I optimized and improved it. Wei Wen stated seriously, though his words were far-fetched. He had originally been debating whether to tell Luo Feng about the optimized 9-layers Thunder Blade, but he hadn't expected Luo Feng to figure it out on his own. Not that it mattered. He trusted Luo Feng's character. Besides, teaching Luo Feng the optimized version was beneficial for Wei Wen as well. Ahem. Wei Wen, could you teach me? Luo Feng asked, looking somewhat embarrassed. He was well aware that the original 9-stage Thunder Blade was already valuable, let alone an improved version. Its worth would undoubtedly be much higher. No problem, Wei Wen replied calmly, but the optimized secret manual must be kept confidential. At the very least, when displaying your strength in public, only use the first stage of the original 9-stage Thunder Blade. Understood, Luo Feng agreed immediately. Having purchased the secret manual himself, Luo Feng knew that such texts couldn't be casually shared. If word got out that Wei Wen had improved and optimized the 9-stage Thunder Blade manual, it could lead to significant trouble. Good. As for the specifics of the optimization, it goes like this. Wei Wen proceeded to explain simply. Luo Feng listened with rapt attention, as if possessed, absorbing every detail of Wei Wen's improvements and explanations regarding the 9-layers Thunder Blade. The foundation of cultivation was paramount. A better foundation in force exertion from the start would lead to faster progress in the future. I never imagined force should be applied this way. The advantages are tremendous, Luo Feng murmured. It's incredible. When I compare the 9-layers Thunder Blade I bought with this optimized version, the gap is vast. I never thought power could be channeled like this. Wei Wen, you're truly a genius. This improvement and optimization of the secret technique is amazing. Besides the optimizations themselves, the progression from basic to advanced is exceptionally clear, with very straightforward explanations on force exertion methods. In truth, Luo Feng's current strength was still at the level of pure burst power, focused mainly on increasing explosive force. He had never considered applying force to his legs to increase speed, let alone the defensive aspects that the original 9-stage Thunder Blade didn't cover. The optimized 9-stage Thunder Blade incorporated all these concepts. Once mastered, with the same first-stage cultivation and physical fitness, he could completely overwhelm a warrior who practiced the ordinary first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Luo Feng had managed to reach the first stage of the unimproved 9-stage Thunder Blade in just over a month. The first 3 layers had taken him about half a year. While the optimized 9-stage Thunder Blade might not be a perfect secret technique, it couldn't compare to foundational mental cultivation methods honed by countless beings over millennia. It could still significantly increase Luo Feng's cultivation speed. Now, he estimated it wouldn't even take 2 months to master the improved first 3 layers. By around the end of August, Luo Feng was confident he could pass the B-level test. After all, the improved 9-stage Thunder Blade included not only offensive blade techniques, but also movement techniques and guidance methods, greatly enhancing both Luo Feng's raw power and agility. By the way, Wei Wen, what are your thoughts on joining the training camp? Luo Feng suddenly remembered another reason for his visit. You don't want to go, do you? Wei Wen looked surprised. It's not that I don't want to, I just have a lot of concerns. You know about my family's situation, Luo Feng said, looking troubled. Actually, the elite training camp isn't as isolated as you might think, and the management is quite flexible, Wei Wen explained simply. The network access inside is very convenient. You can call or video chat with your family over the internet. Besides, you should understand this. To put it bluntly, a warrior's strength and status translate directly into wealth. The sooner you become strong, the faster you can fulfill your desires, like improving your family's living conditions or even helping your brother walk again. Once you're free from these worries and have the strength, you'll have the freedom to do as you wish. Even marrying Xue Ying wouldn't be a problem. Luo Feng's mouth twitched slightly. His secret crush on his future wife was no secret to Wei Wen, who was a transmigrator. But in truth, Luo Feng was also acutely aware of the significant gap between himself and Xue Ying. While Luo Feng wasn't entirely clear about Xue Ying's exact background, he had some idea. Coupled with his own family circumstances, he didn't dare to pursue her openly, so he had always kept his feelings hidden. Luo Feng was only human. Beyond considering his family, he also had his own aspirations. Everything in your dreams might be within reach if you just stretch out your hand. Luo Feng's eyes narrowed as he gazed at the bustling, feasting warrior community. Before, his family lacked wealth, forcing him to rely solely on himself for everything. But now, he could also depend on his own talent and comprehension. Luo Feng glanced toward his home. If he willed it, he could change the fate of both himself and his family. Keep working hard, Luo Feng. Wei Wen encouraged him. The more promising the future he painted for Luo Feng, the stronger Luo Feng's determination to strive would become. Over the next 2 days, while Wei Wen and Luo Feng continued their training, they also waited quietly for the warrior team Xue Ying had mentioned, the one that would take them to the wilderness area for real-world experience. In addition to practicing and comprehending the 9-stage Thunderblade, Luo Feng also trained in the basic methods of controlling flying knives to exercise his mental power and increase his telekinesis amplitude. For 2 full days, Wei Wen either rested or was fully immersed in such practice, never once leaving the house. And through the feedback from Luo Feng, he finally achieved some results. Your friend Luo Feng is comprehending the optimized version of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Your understanding of the optimized 9-stage Thunderblade continues to improve. Congratulations on comprehending the first stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Thanks to the feedback from Luo Feng's training, Wei Wen's grasp of the 9-stage Thunderblade was rapidly deepening. Before Luo Feng had even mastered the first stage, Wei Wen had already comprehended it ahead of him. A sudden sense of enlightenment arose in Wei Wen's heart. His next blade slash was almost instinctive, utilizing only 70% of his strength. Yet, after delivering this force, his body still retained enough energy to instantly unleash a second burst of force, also at 70%. Whoosh, 2 consecutive waves of force transmitted to his arm. In a combat scenario, the Blood Shadow Blade would instantly transform into a cold streak of light, cutting through the air faster than ever before. I can now emit an additional burst of hidden force, and this hidden force isn't limited to just my hands and sword, Wei Wen smiled. It can also act on my legs and body, increasing my speed and defensive capabilities. The first stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade provided a force amplitude of 1.4 times, significantly boosting Wei Wen's overall strength. In front of the tall, dark blue skyscraper that served as the headquarters of the Extreme Martial Club Hall in the main urban area of Jiangnan Base City, 2 youthful figures appeared. They were Wei Wen and Luo Feng, who had just arrived. Xue Ying had informed them today that a warrior team had been assigned to them. However, it wasn't exactly a team, rather a powerful warrior had been arranged to lead them, and they were here to meet today. The president is training on the 31st floor. He is waiting for you now, A staff member of the Extreme Martial Club Hall said upon seeing Wei Wen and Luo Feng, immediately rushing to greet them. "Thank you for letting us know." Wei Wen and Luo Feng nodded. The staff then led Wei Wen and Luo Feng into the headquarters building, entered an elevator, and pressed the button for the 31st floor. While many warriors were waiting at the entrances of other elevators, the special elevator Wei Wen and Luo Feng entered had no one else waiting. The ordinary warriors couldn't help but feel surprised seeing these two young men able to enter the special elevator. After all, they were geniuses capable of at least entering the basic training camp, and possibly even the elite training camp. Having some privileges was normal. The elevator ascended without stopping, quickly reaching the top 31st floor. Wei Wen and Luo Feng exited the elevator and promptly entered the martial arts training hall ahead. "Wei Wen, Luo Feng, let me introduce you. This is Lu Gang, a renowned god of war in our Jiangnan base city," Xue Ying said, getting straight to the point. "He will be taking you two under his wing for now. It will make gaining experience outside the base city easier, and your safety will be better guaranteed. Furthermore, Lu Gang is also a master practitioner of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Since the secret manuals you bought are for the 9-stage Thunder Blade, you can seek his guidance when the time comes." Lu Gang, if Wei Wen remembered correctly, he was one of the famous gods of war from the original story, the one who died during the Rat Tide. Although he was the first god of war to fall in the plot, he was still a being capable of hunting lord-level beasts, and his strength should not be underestimated. As for Xue Ying's suggestion regarding the 9-stage Thunder Blade, Wei Wen and Luo Feng glanced at each other and couldn't help but smile mysteriously. The 9-stage Thunder Blade they practiced wasn't something Lu Gang could teach them. "Senior God of War, it's an honor to meet you. We look forward to your guidance in the future," Wei Wen and Luo Feng said promptly. To be honest, even accounting for Wei Wen's strength as a spiritual master, he still couldn't reach the level of a god of war capable of hunting lord-level beasts. As for Lu Gang himself, after reaching the god of war level, he almost always operated alone and didn't lead warrior teams into combat. After all, warrior teams operate on the edge of life and death. Having one burden in the team could have a significant impact, let alone two this time. Initially, when Xue Ying first approached him about the task of mentoring rookies, he had been reluctant. He had seen many geniuses, but many were arrogant and conceited. He wasn't willing to do such a thankless task. He was a god of war who spent most of the year in the wilderness. Mere genius wasn't enough to earn his genuine recognition. Anyone capable of becoming a god of war could themselves be called a genius. But he owed Xue Ying a favor from before and couldn't refuse, so he ultimately had to hold his nose and accept it. However, based on this initial contact, Wei Wen and Luo Feng didn't seem like the arrogant type. At the very least, they were easy to approach, which made him secretly nod in approval. "Old Lu, they'll be counting on you on this trip," Xue Ying said with a smile. "No problem," Lu Gang revealed a smile. "I heard from Chairman Xu that you two are rare talents in our Jiangnan base city. Since you're with me, I'll protect you if you run into trouble. But let me be clear first. I'll give you opportunities to practice and adapt to fighting those beasts. You have to put in the effort yourselves, though. You can't always rely on my help." "Understood," Wei Wen and Luo Feng nodded. "It's about time. Let's get ready and set off." Lu Gang checked his watch and stood up. "By the way, I see neither of you are wearing combat uniforms. Don't tell me you haven't bought weapons or combat gear yet. We're about to enter the wilderness area. You can't go without suitable equipment. Should I help you purchase some at a 1/3 discount?" As a god of war of the Thunder Dojo, he enjoyed the privilege of purchasing equipment at 1/3 of the market price, which was less than half the cost. "Thank you." The eyes of both Wei Wen and Luo Feng lit up. Wei Wen had a starting capital of 10 billion. With a 1/3 discount, his purchasing power effectively became 30 billion, which was probably enough to buy a full set of elementary god of war-level combat uniforms, weapons, shields, and throwing knives. As for Luo Feng, although he only had 200 million in startup capital, lower-level equipment was cheaper. He could purchase a mid-level warrior-level suit, While waiting for the equipment to be delivered, Xue Zhengyang suddenly remembered something. By the way, you started practicing the 9-stage Thunderblade 2 days ago. How are the results? Xue Zhengyang asked curiously. Although he didn't expect Wei Wen and Luo Feng to have succeeded, what if they had? Wei Wen hesitated for a moment, his gaze sweeping subtly around the room. Veterans like Xue Zhengyang and Lu Gang immediately understood his unspoken meaning. Judging by Wei Wen's demeanor, he might just have a surprise for them. In other words, Wei Wen might have already mastered the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Everyone else, leave us. Xue Zhengyang waved his hand, dismissing the surrounding staff of the Extreme Martial Club Hall. The personnel who had brought Wei Wen and Luo Feng, along with the other staff present, nodded and filed out. Soon, only Wei Wen, Luo Feng, Xue Zhengyang, and Lu Gang remained. The 9-stage Thunder Blade is renowned as the most explosively powerful and the most difficult force exertion technique to master. I know your comprehension is exceptional, but your training time has been so short, merely a few days, Xue Zhengyang said with a grave expression. If you've truly grasped the first stage already, it would be truly unbelievable. It would also prove you are a rare genius across the entire planet. Wei Wen, give it a try. I hope you can genuinely surprise me. The Extreme Martial Club has always favored geniuses, especially those with profound comprehension. As long as you possess sufficient potential, we will undoubtedly support you. I have indeed mastered the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade, Wei Wen revealed a confident smile. He understood well that appropriately displaying his extraordinary comprehension could attract the attention and investment of the Extreme Martial Club Hall headquarters, which was beneficial for him. Subscribe for more amazing novel audiobooks. Don't forget to like, comment, and share Infinite Novel Audio. Really? Xue Zhengyang drew a sharp breath, his face betraying his shock. He struggled to keep his voice calm, but a faint tremor was undeniable. What? Lu Gang also stared at Wei Wen in astonishment, his heart suddenly roiling like a stormy sea. For instance, an average warrior can exert power between 1x and 2x their base strength, while a god of war warrior can achieve between 2x and 4x. It might take many warriors a full 10 years to reach the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Take God of War Lu Gang himself. As a seasoned god of war, he has only reached the 3rd stage. His ability to become a god of war already signifies talent surpassing most warriors. Yet, it took him decades to cultivate the 3rd stage. Comparing that to Wei Wen mastering the 1st stage in just a few days, the difference was staggering. This was the source of his shock. He even wondered if Wei Wen was lying. After all, even Thunder God, the founder of the 9-stage Thunder Blade, might not have progressed at such an insane rate. Even Luo Feng was momentarily stunned by Wei Wen's speed in mastering the blade technique, his heart skipping a beat. He truly is a genius who managed to improve the power of the 9-level Thunder Blade, Luo Feng thought, inwardly amazed. You'll know once you see it. Wei Wen said, throwing a casual punch. Force erupted almost instantaneously. But the moment that force was transmitted to his arm, a second wave of power burst forth within Wei Wen's body. The 2 consecutive forces merged and surged through his arm, propelling his fist forward with immense power. Lu Gang, also a practitioner of the 9-stage Thunder Blade, could tell from the instantaneous acceleration of Wei Wen's punch that he had layered 2 successive waves of hidden force, a clear hallmark of the 1st stage. Although Xue Zhengyang didn't practice the technique himself, he could still discern that Wei Wen's punch was fundamentally different from an ordinary warrior's explosive power. The 1st stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Xue Zhengyang asked, poking Lu Gang beside him, his voice still laced with disbelief. Though it's incredible, his force exertion method is indeed that of the 1st stage, Lu Gang replied with a wry smile. To reach this point in just a few days, perhaps he'll comprehend the 4th stage within a year, a level I still haven't managed to grasp after all this time. To master the 1st stage of the notoriously difficult 9-stage Thunder Blade in just a few days, if he had been slightly skeptical before, thinking Wei Wen might be joking, he was now utterly convinced and shocked. It felt like they were both pursuing an unattainable goddess. He had to struggle and sweat for every tiny bit of progress, only to turn around and find the goddess not only welcoming Wei Wen with open arms, but practically falling into his lap effortlessly. This made him sigh deeply. The gap between geniuses was real. There was always someone better, a truth he now faced directly. "This is a true genius," Xue Ying said, his expression turning excited. "He's truly a treasure. With Wei Wen's training speed, passing the B-grade assessment in 2 months won't be a problem. He'll definitely qualify for the elite training camp then." Though surprised, this was excellent news for Xue Ying. He had originally planned to recommend Wei Wen to the elite training camp. After hearing Yang Hui's earlier assessment, he had thought there was little hope. But seeing Wei Wen master the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade in a few days, he was now confident that Wei Wen could reach the 3rd stage before the assessment. Moreover, Wei Wen was his recommendation. The more formidable the comprehension and potential Wei Wen displayed, the greater the benefits Xue Ying would receive. Combined with his early investment in Wei Wen, once Wei Wen grew into a powerhouse, certainly not inferior to himself, the returns would be immense. It was a win-win situation. "Luo Feng, you also purchased the 9-stage Thunder Blade. How is your practice coming along?" Xue Ying looked at Luo Feng expectantly. Wei Wen had given him a huge surprise. Perhaps Luo Feng had won too. "It's going all right. I haven't fully mastered it yet, but I feel it will only take a few more days of diligent practice," Luo Feng replied simply. Lu Gang felt his worldview shaking again, as if he were being left behind by the times. "I thought Wei Wen was amazing enough, but I didn't expect you to be just as remarkable," Xue Ying said, feeling that Luo Feng had also given him a significant surprise. "Before, I thought only Wei Wen might barely make it into the elite training camp. Now it seems you have a very strong chance as well." With their rate of improvement, once they enter the elite training camp at headquarters and enjoy superior training conditions, they are bound to become the youngest god of war in the future. After chatting briefly, the equipment Lu Gang had purchased for Wei Wen and Luo Feng arrived. "Old Lu, I'm counting on you for their trip this time. If I weren't so busy as the head, I'd personally take charge of their training," Xue Ying said with a smile. "Also, Wei Wen, Luo Feng, report to me on your progress with the 9-stage Thunder Blade on August 1st. At that time, I can submit a report to headquarters and apply for spots in the elite training camp for you. Don't worry, old Xue. This time, I'm only taking them to wilderness towns with lower threat levels," Lu Gang assured him. "As long as we don't run into Lord-level beasts or large-scale beast tides, their safety is absolutely guaranteed. I even feel their future achievements might not be inferior to those of the dojo master himself. Being able to guide such peerless geniuses, even for a short while, is something I could boast about for a lifetime." As a veteran god of war, Lu Gang was a well-known figure in the martial arts circles of Jiangnan Base City, and had a sterling reputation. In terms of strength, he wasn't necessarily inferior to the mid-level god of war Xue Ying, which was precisely why he was chosen to lead and mentor the 2 young men. "Wei Wen, Luo Feng, let's go. From now on, just call me Captain." Lu Gang looked at the 2 young men. "Yes, Captain." Wei Wen and Luo Feng responded promptly. Lu Gang was a senior warrior, and after all, he was kindly taking them out for practical experience. They knew better than to be disrespectful. "Good," Lu Gang waved his hand. They gathered their equipment and left the headquarters building together, promptly setting off for the wilderness area. As god of wars, they could have requisitioned a fighter jet, but the wilderness area they were heading to wasn't far, making it unnecessary. Hundreds of miles outside Jiangnan Base City lay a warrior supply base. "Wei Wen, Luo Feng, it's summer, and the daytime heat is brutal. We rest during the day," Lu Gang briefly explained the standard wilderness survival practices to them. "Nighttime and early morning are our primary hours for action. Conserving energy is crucial in the wilderness. All right, let's rest here for now. We'll set out at 7 p.m. to begin hunting beasts in the wilderness area." At a warrior's speed, covering dozens of kilometers in a few minutes was trivial. For instance, a warrior at the threshold of the junior god of war level could reach speeds of 90 meters per second, translating to 5 to 6 kilometers per minute. As for someone like Liu Gang, a full-fledged god of war, even an average one could break the sound barrier, and their attack speed was evidently even faster. Liu Gang's death had been a truly unjust misfortune. Thanks for the reminder, Captain. Wei Wen and Luo Feng nodded in acknowledgement. However, as spirit masters, their soul consciousness was far more potent. They could remain highly alert and energetic even without sleeping for days. Upon reaching higher levels like the planetary, star, or even greater realm, sleep might become entirely optional. Especially after witnessing Wei Wen master the 9-stage Thunder Blade, Luo Feng felt an even greater urgency to push himself. He had no intention of slacking off on his blade practice during the day. When tired from practicing blade techniques and movement skills, they would occasionally meditate, cultivating the 5 acupoints origin method, but they spent most of their time honing their mental power. After all, their abilities as spirit masters were their greatest strength. As for Wei Wen, he stayed inside all day, undoubtedly engaged in rigorous training. Their relentless drive left Liu Gang deeply impressed. He couldn't help but sigh inwardly. It's not others having talent that's fearsome. It's when those talented individuals work even harder than you do. At that moment, he seemed to understand how Wei Wen and Luo Feng had achieved so much by the age of 18. 7:30 p.m., wilderness area. A strange roar echoed from outside, a sound Liu Gang was quite familiar with. Most of the dominant beasts in this wilderness area belonged to the pig, cat, and dog families, known for their high reproductive rates. This herd probably has over 31 horned wild boars. The leader is just a high-level beast soldier, Liu Gang briefly informed Wei Wen and Luo Feng. True combat is often the best way to identify your shortcomings and temper a warrior's will. I'll handle the strongest one-horned wild boar. You two are geniuses. I've heard you've mastered the micro-level movement skill. Care to take on the challenge? No problem. Wei Wen and Luo Feng replied with confidence. Being spirit masters, if they fought unrestrictedly, they could take down not just 30-plus beast soldier-level boars, but even a beast general level one. Let's begin. Without wasting words, Liu Gang drew his blood shadow blade. His figure instantly blurred into an afterimage as he leaped from the window into the beast herd. With a casual slash, he killed the high-level beast soldier leader, then vanished. Liu Gang's move stirred up the entire herd of one-horned wild boars. Wei Wen and Luo Feng, positioned in front, naturally became the targets. For reasons unknown to the boars, the 30-plus creatures charged at the duo from all sides. Hunting was the innate instinct of these wild beasts. As a pack, their coordination was remarkably tacit. Most of these one-horned wild boars are mid-level beast soldiers at best, equivalent to mid-level warriors. They pose almost no threat to you. Liu Gang's voice rang out. He was right. The one-horned wild boars were large, but their attacks were simplistic and easy to evade. As long as their numbers weren't overwhelming, they weren't a significant threat. Both Luo Feng and Wei Wen possessed micro-level movement skills, with Wei Wen's being even more refined than Luo Feng's. Their evasive steps and shifts were precise, carrying a unique rhythm, allowing them to effortlessly dodge the boar's assaults. Clang. Wei Wen's base strength had already surpassed that of a junior god of war. Augmented by his force generation technique, he could even contend with an average mid-level god of war. A flash of sharp blade light, and a nearby one-horned wild boar was killed in the blink of an eye. Luo Feng, with his strength, could also easily dispatch the medium-level boars. How old were we when we reached the micro-level? Liu Gang and the others broke into a cold sweat watching the perilously narrow angles at which Wei Wen and Luo Feng evaded attacks. Their movement skills are indeed excellent, but they still lack practical combat experience. Despite their powerful blade techniques and movement, there's almost no coordination, and they don't seem to be conserving any stamina at all. This all-out fighting style isn't suitable for the wilderness, where danger can emerge at any moment. You need to conserve every bit of strength for when it's truly needed. Especially against these weaker beasts, there's no need to go all out. You only need to use the minimum force necessary to kill them, unlike Wei Wen's method of cleaving them in half at the waist. Lu Gang sighed, palm meeting his forehead. Fortunately, practical experience is easy to gain. With their comprehension, it won't take long for them to adapt to the rhythm of combat. Lu Gang didn't know that mental power was their trump card, so they weren't overly concerned about conserving physical strength. Quickly eliminating the beasts was their priority. Wei Wen, Luo Feng, your performance was decent, but it was flawed, and the combat efficiency was too low. Later, watch how I kill beasts using similar strength, Lu Gang said, reappearing before them after they had wiped out all the one-horned wild boars. After traveling a short distance further, they encountered another beast group, the tiger beast cats of the feline family. These creatures, as sturdy as calves with spotted markings, were far more agile and ferocious than the one-horned wild boars. Lu Gang stepped forward and began demonstrating how to fight more efficiently. As a tiger beast cat pounced at him, he gently blocked and pushed with his shield, causing the beast to lose balance and tumble. In that instant, his sharp blade sliced across its throat. Every beast has weaknesses, typically the head, neck, eyes, ears, spine, anus, and underbelly. Lu Gang explained while fighting. A strike to behead, a thrust to the spine, a blade through the ear into the brain, these are all one-hit kill techniques. Just like Lu Gang's use of his shield to disrupt the tiger beast cat's balance, instantly exposing its weakness, followed by a precise, lethal cut. He hadn't used strength surpassing the beasts, nor relied on superior speed or fancy footwork, yet the result was devastatingly effective. In contrast, to kill a one-horned wild boar, they had to dodge repeatedly before landing an attack. If Wei Wen weren't a junior god of war and used only strength equivalent to the beasts, a one-hit kill would be impossible. Recognizing Wei Wen and Luo Feng's potential, Lu Gang was determined to train them meticulously. It might also benefit his own future. Through Lu Gang's daily guidance and leading by example, Wei Wen and Luo Feng rapidly accumulated practical combat experience against various beasts. Luo Feng, with his high comprehension, quickly grasped that so-called combat experience was about maximizing the effectiveness of every attack and dodge. Their initial, flashy evasions against the one-horned wild boars were merely showing off. As time passed, Luo Feng's fighting style became sharper, cleaner, and more efficient, his growth rate astonishing. As for Wei Wen, who was bound to lie down with Luo Feng, his progress was surprisingly even more remarkable than Luo Feng's. Of course, this wasn't the most surprising factor for Wei Wen. The real shock was the improvement in his spirit master strength. Your friend Luo Feng is comprehending the power of mental telekinesis. Your control over mental power continues to improve. Congratulations on reaching 2x spiritual amplitude. Luo Feng's talent as a spirit master was far greater than his talent as a warrior. Just consider this. Within a single month and without any secret manuals, Luo Feng managed to double his spiritual amplitude. This alone demonstrated the sheer terror of his innate ability. Now, after gaining some experience in the wilderness and receiving feedback from Luo Feng, Wei Wen was able to achieve double the spiritual amplitude ahead of schedule. Does this make me a god of war spirit master? Wei Wen's eyes suddenly shone with excitement. In truth, a spirit master's strength was clearly superior to that of a warrior. Before reaching the first stage of the planetary realm, Wei Wen's mental prowess would always be 2 full tiers above his martial prowess. For instance, his current martial strength was that of an entry-level warrior, while his mental power had reached the advanced warrior level. Furthermore, with his spiritual amplitude now doubled, Wei Wen's explosive power could reach the threshold of a beginner god of war, even touching upon the lord level. Under the right circumstances, favorable timing, location, and conditions, Wei Wen could potentially rely on his mental power to hunt lord-level beasts growl. A tiger-cat beast let out a wretched howl as Luo Feng, utilizing his superb combat skills, killed it with a single strike. The pack of beast soldiers in front of them was completely enraged. Several tiger cats attacked Luo Feng from all sides. Some even leaped into the air, plummeting down from above to block Luo Feng's escape routes. Yet, all of this seemed futile. Luo Feng's movement skill had reached the micro level, allowing him to shift and dodge with impeccable precision. Clang on the rooftop, Lu Gang couldn't help but break into a cold sweat for Luo Feng as he watched the dangerously narrow angles of his evasions. The strongest tiger cat hadn't attacked Luo Feng immediately. Instead, it fixed its gaze on him, waiting for him to exhaust his stamina or reveal an opening to deliver a fatal blow. A minute passed, and Luo Feng had already slain over 20 tiger cat beasts. However, it seemed that due to excessive physical exertion, Luo Feng's movements and blade play weren't as sharp as they were at the start. Under the cover of the remaining 20 or so tiger cats, the strongest one quietly closed in on Luo Feng. When the distance shrank to about 5 meters, the tiger cat suddenly erupted with its full power, launching a silent, lethal assault. "Luo Feng, behind you," Lu Gang shouted. In reality, Luo Feng was wearing a mid-level warrior-grade combat suit. As long as the attack didn't hit a vital spot, the tiger cat couldn't breach his defense at all. With Luo Feng's reaction speed, micro-level movement skill, and his own warning, Lu Gang was sure Luo Feng would be fine, so he didn't intervene. But what happened next left Lu Gang utterly astonished. Luo Feng's mental power instantly detected the tiger cat sneaking up from behind. A sense of imminent danger set his nerves on fire, and his eyes widened sharply. Given Luo Feng's reaction ability, honed by dodging countless rubber bullets in the reflex test, he decided to use this moment to challenge his own limits. In truth, Luo Feng had long felt he was on the verge of comprehending the 9-stage Thunderblade, but breaking through that final threshold was no easy task. Under the immense pressure, Luo Feng's body tensed to the extreme, causing a massive surge of adrenaline. His heart rate skyrocketed to an astonishing speed, the hairs all over his body stood on end, and his nerve reactions were heightened to an unprecedented level. Even the mental power deep within his sea of consciousness spontaneously spread out, swiftly enveloping his entire body to defend against the tiger cat's attack. If his breakthrough failed, Luo Feng could still rely on his mental power to kill the tiger cat. Luo Feng isn't dodging. Could he be planning to counterattack? Lu Gang couldn't help but frown. The life-threatening crisis pushed Luo Feng's body, mind, and reflexes to their peak in an instant. The deep muscles within his body were fully mobilized, becoming sharper than ever. Boom. Luo Feng's slash was almost reflexive. He hadn't mustered his full strength, only utilizing 70% of his power. But the moment that 70% of power erupted, the strength remaining in Luo Feng's body instantly produced a second burst, also at 70% power. It happened as a matter of course. Facing this life-or-death crisis, at the very moment his mind and body reached their zenith, a second wave of power naturally erupted from within. The 9-stage Thunder Blade, the first stage, had successfully broken through the bottleneck under tremendous pressure. The speed of the Blood Shadow blade instantly surged, killing the tiger cat before its attack could land. Blood gushed from the tiger cat like a fountain. Phew, Luo Feng's mental power receded back into his sea of consciousness. That kind of power burst. Is this the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade? Lu Gang immediately recognized the difference in Luo Feng's blade technique. Can someone truly achieve a breakthrough in a moment of life-and-death crisis? I never expected Luo Feng's talent to be so monstrous as well. He broke through the first stage of the 9-stage Thunder Blade so quickly. It seems I'll have to send a message to old Xue and congratulate him in advance. Xue Zhengyang had previously mentioned that if Wei Wen or Luo Feng made a breakthrough in their blade techniques, he should be notified ahead of time. However, he never anticipated that due to Luo Feng's breakthrough, Wei Wen would also receive feedback from Luo Feng through the system, successfully achieving a breakthrough in the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Your friend Luo Feng has gained sudden insight into the optimized version of the 9-stage Thunder Blade. Your comprehension of the optimized 9-stage Thunderblade continues to improve. Congratulations on comprehending the second stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Luo Feng hadn't even mastered the second stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade yet, but Wei Wen had already comprehended it in advance. The second stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade involved a threefold superposition of 70% power, resulting in 1 times the force, already surpassing his current spiritual amplitude. It was a pity that Wei Wen's physical physique was only a quarter of the strength of his mental power, so his martial prowess still paled in comparison to his psychic abilities. A flash of insight emerged in Wei Wen's heart. In the next moment, he almost swung his blade out of pure reflex. The second stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade, a 2.1 times power burst. Lu Gang, who was standing beside Wei Wen, seemed to sense something and looked at him in shock. It was one thing for Luo Feng to break through in a life-or-death situation, but for Wei Wen to achieve a breakthrough just by watching Luo Feng, how was that even possible? Nevertheless, the fact remained. Wei Wen's power had reached the second stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Holy shit. A mix of shock and envy appeared on Lu Gang's face. He had previously thought it might take Wei Wen 2 months to catch up to him, but now it seemed Wei Wen was likely to surpass him in a very short time. On the 31st floor of the Jiangnan base city's Extreme Martial Club Hall, Xue Ying, dressed in a black training uniform, sat cross-legged. Xue Ying opened his eyes. Connected. Suddenly, a camera projected a beam of light, casting a large screen image onto the wall. Freaks. Those 2 boys are absolute freaks. Beasts, they're just beasts. Lu Gang's voice came through, filled with complaint. What's wrong? Xue Ying asked, confused. You have no idea. Just now, Luo Feng comprehended the first stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade, and right after, Wei Wen comprehended the second stage. Lu Gang exclaimed, his face a picture of bewilderment. What? Xue Ying's eyes widened. He took a sharp breath, his face etched with utter shock. The progress of Wei Wen and Luo Feng left Xue Ying feeling stupefied. He muttered repeatedly, impossible, that's absolutely impossible. However, he had a very close relationship with Lu Gang. They had once been warriors in the same small team, and he knew Lu Gang wouldn't lie about something like this. There was simply no need for it. In other words, Luo Feng had truly mastered the first stage of the 9-stage Thunderblade, and Wei Wen had mastered the second stage. But the memory of Lu Gang's own progress in practicing the 9-stage Thunderblade was still vivid in his mind. It had taken Lu Gang a full 10 years to complete the second stage. Yet, Wei Wen and Luo Feng's progress had far surpassed Lu Gang's from the very beginning. I've known for a while that Wei Wen and Luo Feng are talented. After all, they're geniuses who grasped micro-level movement at 18 and were recruited into our hall ahead of schedule, Xue Ying remarked with feeling. While their mastery of micro-level movement is impressive, what surprises me even more is their skill with the 9-stage Thunderblade. But how long has it even been since they started? Old Lu, since when did your teaching reach such a high level? Although Xue Ying found it hard to believe, once he collected himself, he couldn't hide his astonishment. While both Wei Wen and Luo Feng's rapid progress was shocking, it was undoubtedly a good thing for him. Wei Wen and Luo Feng were both peerless geniuses. Such prodigies were rare finds anywhere in the world. With their current performance, there was absolutely no question about their qualification to enter the elite training camp. In other words, even if he recommended them to the headquarters elite training camp right now, his application would be approved. The elite training camp, also known among warriors as the God of War Preparatory Camp, was a place where, barring any major issues, one was practically guaranteed to become a god of war, and not just an ordinary one at that. Of course, the headquarters would likely arrange assessments for them. Their final admission would depend on whether they could pass. Teaching, to be honest, I only taught them practical combat. Before I could even instruct them on the 9-stage Thunderblade, they had already broken through to a new level, Lu Gang said, the corner of his mouth twitching. I even feel somewhat redundant as a teacher. I have a vague sense that their sword techniques possess a refined simplicity. It's a pity I couldn't fully perceive it. Otherwise, my own force blade skills might have improved significantly. Is that so? Xue Zhengyang fell silent for a moment but didn't dwell on it. First, record their video documentation. I'll recommend them for the elite training camp later. In his heart, Thunder God was the second most powerful figure in the world, surpassed only by Hong. Wei Wen and Luo Feng were merely rookies who had just come into contact with 9-stage Thunderblade. Thunder God had been practicing the 9-stage Thunderblade for decades. How could their sword skills possibly be more sophisticated than his? Even if that were somehow true, it wasn't his main concern. Xue Zhengyang was more focused on their admission into the elite training camp. After all, this was a performance metric for him and could bring direct benefits. No problem, Lu Gang nodded. Wilderness area. Old Xue plans to recommend you too for the elite training camp. Perform your punching techniques and let me record them on video. Lu Gang said to Wei Wen and Luo Feng. This was essentially a simple video verification task. With the discerning eyes of Lu Gang and Xue Zhengyang, they could assess the proficiency of Wei Wen and Luo Feng's 9-stage Thunder Blade by the acceleration behind their punches. As for speed and nerve response, there was no need for separate tests. Their best performance was already demonstrated through their practice of the 9-stage Thunderblade. Wei Wen and Luo Feng executed their punches in front of Lu Gang, demonstrating the second and first stages of the 9-stage Thunderblade, respectively. Lu Gang recorded the session and later sent the video to Xue Zhengyang. After obtaining the video, Xue Zhengyang contacted Yang Hui again. Iron Hand, what brings your call today? Yang Hui said cheerfully. Don't tell me it's about Wei Wen joining the elite training camp again. Yes and no. Xue Zhengyang replied with a serious expression. Old Yang, I'm sending you a video now. Take a good look. Wei Wen's comprehension is very high, but based on his previous performance, he truly wasn't qualified for the elite training camp, as he made significant progress recently. Seeing Xue Zhengyang's grave demeanor, Yang Hui curiously opened the video he had sent. Damn, you didn't edit this video, did you? Yang Hui's face was a picture of disbelief. As everyone knows, videos can't be edited, so this is genuine, Xue Zhengyang joked. Most importantly, they only reached this state 10 minutes ago. So this time, I'm not only recommending Wei Wen for the elite training camp, but Luo Feng as well. What do you think? With their performance, of course there's no issue, Yang Hui said seriously. But you know how precious the spots in the elite training camp are. I don't have the final say in this matter. I'll report their situation to Inspector Wang, the senior executive of the elite training camp, shortly. I'll inform you as soon as I have any news. Thank you. I'll hang up now. Xue Zhengyang smiled. Whether motivated by personal interest or otherwise, both Xue Zhengyang and Yang Hui were genuinely invested in nurturing talented Chinese youths. Connect to Inspector Wang. Yang Hui issued a voice command to his communicator. Beep, beep, hello. A deep, slightly hoarse voice answered. Greetings, Inspector. Yang Hui immediately stood up, his attitude extremely respectful. An inspector, their status within the Taejiquan was second only to its founder, Hong. According to the Martial Hall's hierarchy, only those who had surpassed the God of War level could hold the position of inspector. In other words, every inspector was a planetary-level powerhouse, an existence beyond the God of War realm. As for Wei Wen, perhaps he only needed to reach the intermediate God of War level before his spiritual master strength could break through to the planetary level. Breaking through to planetary level was much easier for him than for Luo Feng, and he might achieve it more than 2 years earlier than Luo Feng did in the original timeline. Oh, Yang Hui, what did you need? Inspector Wang's voice came through. This time, Xue Zhengyang, the president of the Jiangnan-based city Martial Hall, discovered 2 peerless geniuses during his visit there. Here is some information about them, Yang Hui briefly explained. Let me give you a quick introduction. Both of them have been practicing the 9-stage Thunderblade for less than 10 days and have already reached the first and second stages, respectively. I believe that with their comprehension and rate of improvement, they qualify for the elite training camp. Hiss. Inspector Wang was visibly shocked by Yang Hui's words. Although he didn't practice the 9-stage Thunder Blade himself, he was well aware of its difficulty, completing the first and second stages within 10 days. If the Thunder God heard about this, he would definitely try to poach them. This alone was enough proof of their potential and comprehension. This year's quotas were filled long ago. China already requested an extra quota earlier this year. Logically, we shouldn't allocate more spots to China. Inspector Wang fell silent for a moment. Very well. Let's give Wei Wen and Luo Feng a chance to take the B-level assessment at the end of August. As long as they maintain their current pace of progress, they will definitely pass the assessment. That should prevent excessive gossip from other countries. There were only 6 base cities in all of China. With a population of over 1 billion, only one person was typically selected per year for the training camp. China had already requested 1 extra quota this year. Adding 2 more would inevitably lead some to accuse Inspector Wang, being Chinese himself, of favoritism. However, by arranging the more difficult B-level assessment, anyone who could pass it would effectively silence the critics. After all, before gossiping, critics should first check if their own countries had any young warriors talented enough to pass the B-level assessment. If they lacked such talent, then they should keep quiet. Many of the selected geniuses couldn't even pass the B-level assessment within their first year. Otherwise, there wouldn't be dozens of students in the elite training camp still stuck on the first floor of the trial tower. While Wei Wen and Luo Feng were honing their combat experience and improving their strength daily in the wilderness area, they were also becoming a topic of conversation at the Extreme Martial Hall HQ. After Yang Hui received a definitive reply from Inspector Wang, he relayed the news to Xue Ying. Wei Wen and Luo Feng had secured their spots and would participate in the B-level assessment at the end of August. On a small helipad atop the Extreme Martial Hall HQ building in Jiangnan Base City, the president of the Martial Hall and his 3 supervisors, the 3 giants of the Jiangnan Base City branch, stood waiting quietly. President, it's quite unusual for the headquarters to send an envoy this time. I wonder who the special envoy will be. Zhuge Tao asked curiously. Since the Great Nirvana period, the skies had become filled with numerous birds and monsters, making aircraft far from accessible to the average person. The threat from aerial monsters was significant, requiring extraordinary resources for defense. Consequently, the cost of each passenger aircraft was astronomical, even surpassing that of an aircraft carrier from the pre-Great Nirvana era. But this time, Inspector Wang had instructed them to wait on the rooftop of the Jiangnan Base City headquarters. This clearly indicated no ordinary aircraft was coming, and the visitor was certainly no ordinary figure. This time, I submitted the application for Wei Wen and Luo Feng to join the elite training camp. The headquarters reply was brief and approved at lightning speed, Xue Zhengyang said with a smile. It's obvious the headquarters attaches great importance to this matter. They said a special envoy would be sent today to conduct the review. Furthermore, having us wait here suggests the envoy is arriving on a special aircraft. The envoy this time is likely a powerhouse beyond the god of war level. In Xue Zhengyang's estimation, spots in the elite training camp were extremely precious, typically decided by figures at or above the god of war level within the general headquarters. The review process was usually simpler, often handled by a special envoy of god of war rank. But this situation was exceptional. The reported performances of Wei Wen and Luo Feng were simply unbelievable. Mastering the first and second levels of the 9-level Thunder Sword in less than 10 days. Even the Thunder God himself might not have managed that. If all this were true, then Wei Wen and Luo Feng's comprehension ability was no less than that of the Thunder God. When Inspector Wang learned of this, even the head of the main hall, Hong, was reportedly startled. Hong and the Thunder God were brothers, and Hong was deeply aware of the Thunder God's talent. He was intensely curious about how these two could master the first and second levels of the Thunder Sword so rapidly. Just as they were speculating about the envoy's identity, the air around them suddenly grew turbulent. A stream of light appeared in the sky above the Extreme Marshal Hall HQ, almost in the blink of an eye. It rapidly decelerated, passed through the city's defense system, and descended slowly onto the rooftop of the headquarters building. It was a triangular fighter aircraft. The light reflecting off its fuselage made everyone's hearts tremble. What shocked them most was the sheer value of this aircraft. A universe-class smart fighter plane. Xue Zhengyang was instantly stunned. For comparison, a half-price vial of dragon blood sold for 800 billion. The price of a universe-class fighter plane was a staggering 15 times that of dragon blood, a cost measured in trillions. Spending trillions on a fighter alone made it clear that the owner's status was at least beyond the God of War level, and not just an ordinary member of the Council of the God of War Palace. Beep. Before the fighter plane's hatch even opened, the four giants of the Extreme Marshal Hall immediately moved to stand by the gangway, waiting respectfully. As the cabin door opened, a blurry figure materialized in the air. It was the special envoy, clad in a black robe, a black god suit, and wearing a golden mask. Since the mask covered the face, only the eyes, nose, and mouth were visible. But this alone was enough to confirm it was a woman. There were few women who surpassed the God of War level. Within the entire Extreme Marshal Hall organization, there was likely only one. She was the most loyal bodyguard of the Extreme Marshal Hall Master, Hong, and one of his 3 personal guards, Enchantress. The actions of Hong's personal guards represented Hong's own will. Moreover, having followed Hong for so long, the strength of these 3 guards was slightly higher than the average strength of the 5 inspectors of the Extreme Marshal Hall. Welcome, Enchantress. Under Xue Zhengyang's lead, the 4 giants of Jiangnan Base City bowed their heads. The appearance of Enchantress, one of the Hall Master's 3 bodyguards, here clearly signified that Hong himself was involved. The rumor that Wei Wen and Luo Feng's performance had alarmed Hong seemed to be well-founded. Wei Wen and Luo Feng possess remarkable comprehension. This time, your Jiangnan Base City Martial Arts Marshal Hall submitted their application for the elite training camp, and I am here to review it. Enchantress stated bluntly, "The Hall Master has sent me specifically to verify their information. There must be no discrepancies. Report to me all the intelligence you have gathered regarding Wei Wen and Luo Feng's strength, as well as their daily performances from the past." We have already compiled the information on Wei Wen and Luo Feng. Here are their files. President Xue Zhengyang promptly presented the printed documents. A brief silence fell. After exchanging glances with Xu Tao and the others, Xue Zhengyang waited quietly for Enchantress's assessment. Judging from these materials, Luo Feng is extremely diligent, talented, perceptive, and very rational, Enchantress remarked after a quick glance, a trace of surprise flashing in her eyes. As for Wei Wen, if he had applied himself to training with this diligence earlier, he might very well have surpassed the God of War level by now. It's puzzling what he was doing during those past 6 years. I will contact Lu Gang immediately and have him bring them back as soon as possible. Xue Zhengyang said promptly, "No need. The Hall Master takes this matter very seriously. I will go to see them personally and immediately verify whether their mastery of the 9-stage Thunder Blade is genuine." Enchantress looked directly at Xue Zhengyang and the others. Lu Gang took them to the wilderness area to hone their practical combat experience. They should still be there now, Xue Zhengyang explained simply. As long as we know Lu Gang's location, we can find Wei Wen and Luo Feng. Tracking down a God of War was straightforward through the shared system of the God of War Palace. Enchantress, being a council member of the God of War Palace, possessed even higher authority than Lai Wei. She quickly pinpointed Lu Gang's location. Enchantress took a step forward, returning to the universe-class smart fighter plane, which then shot through the air at an astonishing speed. Pull up the satellite projection of Wei Wen and Luo Feng's current location, Enchantress ordered the fighter's AI. Acknowledged. As the electronic voice faded, a 3-dimensional projection materialized within the fighter plane's cabin. The live combat footage of Wei Wen and Luo Feng engaging monsters appeared on the light screen. Roar tilde tilde. Enraged tiger cat monsters were charging madly towards Wei Wen and Luo Feng. A large swarm of flying monsters also dove directly at them, threatening to engulf the duo like a tidal wave. Yet, despite the frenzied onslaught, Wei Wen's movement skills had reached a level that could be called artistic. Every step he took was exquisitely precise, and every shift, dodge, and sidestep of his body harmonized perfectly with the surrounding environment. As for Luo Feng, empowered by his spiritual force, his movements could also be considered to have reached the micro-level. To most observers, there was no discernible difference in performance between Wei Wen and Luo Feng's body techniques and those who had truly reached the perfect, subtle level. The practical effect was identical. Thank you for all the likes, comments, and shares. Keep sharing your thoughts in the comments. We're already halfway to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and enjoying these novel audiobooks.